I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council via virtual access. Today's Monday, June 22nd. If we can all kindly please stand for the pledge to the flag, please, if you have one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right. Madam City Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Present.
Ms. Manalo,
Present.
Dr. Rod,
Present.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Present.
Mr. Sylvester.
Present. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Just information for the public. If you wish to speak on any matter on the agenda, you should have received a link to feel free to send your comments to that particular link. Stephen, do you have that link handy by any chance?
Yes, I do.
Maybe you can share your screen and put it up, so if any member of the public wants to provide comment on any item, that they can do so. As a reminder, could you do that for me, please?
I am going to pull that up right now.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for June 8th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of June 8th, 2020.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Hold on for a second. I gotta get my battery charger. Okay, next item is the consent agenda, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the consent agenda. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. If there's any further information that's requested from any one of my colleagues, please advise.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
Go ahead.
can we pull item 1, 3, and I believe the school one is number 7.
Okay, we got, excuse me, item number 1, 3, and 7. Anything else?
Colleagues.
Anyone? So it's 1, 3, and 7. Okay, and
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve
Okay.
the consent agenda with items 1, 3, and 7 being pulled.
Second.
Thank you. So any further discussion? Okay, with the exception of the items number 1, 3, and 7, all those in favor say aye.
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 We get everyone? Ray?
Yes, aye. I said aye.
Okay, Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So moving on, let's start with item number 1, and that is the approving landscape maintenance service agreement with Laurel Landscaping. Councilmember DiGiovanni, please feel free to move forward and ask your questions.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to make it like really short so that people know that I know that we have to approve it, and we're in the COVID with the situation. Is that when we enter these contracts, that if moving forward with our city contracts, that if we can make sure that I never knew if we ever use prevailing wages with the outside, this vendor, we've had him for a long time, and I know that he's probably done very well with our city and a long time contract person. But I wanted to make sure that hopefully we can address the issue maybe when, as we counseled, most of us are all interested, I think my colleagues as well, in a project labor agreement, and making sure that any contract that we receive including this one, which we've used as Laurel, as at least prevailing wages. That's all I have to say for that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember
But I
DiGiovanni.
know, yeah, thank you.
Okay, what I'd like to do is open that up to either our city manager or Richard Chu to indicate when we go through some of these contracts, if we try to ensure that we can get PWA.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Thank you.
All of the contracts that Daly City enters into with contractors were required to pay prevailing wage, and it needs to
Right.
go through the Department of Industrial Relations for that process. So to answer your question, yes, they are subject to prevailing wage.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. That's a great affirmation for the people at home. I appreciate it. That's it. Thank you. You do such a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. So moving with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept item number 1 on the consent agenda.
Motion to
So
approve.
moved.
Oh, go ahead. Pardon me. Mr. Vice
So
Mayor.
moved by Vice Mayor Manalo, second by Councilmember DiGiovanni. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Gotcha. Okay, that matter has passed. Moving on to item number 3, approving abandonment of a portion of street right-of-way on Carter Street. Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Yeah, the only quick question is that Mr. Chu again, is that the people in the Bayshore area just wanted to know the effect of this particular item because they only were able to read the subpart. And would you mind explaining it's just a way of moving the, I think it was the traffic? Or would you mind just explain a little bit to the people of Bayshore know what this area, with that development?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So this is a project that, or a private development project that's been in the works for many years. It's the Point Martin 1 and Point Martin 2 development. And originally, these two projects were done by, submitted by separate developers. Since that time, the developer for Point Martin 2 purchased Point Martin 1 development. And the idea is to try to develop these concurrently at the same time. The item before you is for the approval of the subdivision improvement agreements, and then also for the final maps so that they can be recorded. As a result of their development, there are some old right-of-way easements, paper streets that were on the books in terms of having those dedicated to the public. And as a result of this project, those are all being cleaned up. And so that's why some of the street right-of-ways on Carter and Martin and Reynolds and a couple of other streets are proposed to be abandoned.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. That helps clarify that. I'm sure everybody in the Bayshore appreciates that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. Question for Mr. Chu along this regard. I see a couple of street names, and I'm sure they'll probably be developing other street names in the as we move forward. Is this not the right time to request certain names for streets?
The names of the new streets haven't been determined yet.
Okay.
It can be brought up as a suggestion to the developer, but it will be discussed at a later date when they submit actual names. And again, that could be discussed after this item is completed.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Okay, are there any further questions on this item, item number 3? All right, may I have a motion to approve item number 3?
Motion to approve item number 3.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, it sounds like we got the majority there. All right. Stephen, I forgot to ask, do we have any public comments on, well, we already did number 1 or number 3?
No, we do have public comments on some of the public hearings later, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll keep checking with you. I don't want to
Okay.
leave out the public. Okay, moving on to item number 7, affirming support of AB 216, California Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum Draft. Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Yes, actually, I know this deals with I also support this ethnic studies, and I would like to defer to our vice mayor, as she was a speaker on one of these at this particular for the high school district, and that I appreciate that the support, and that the council is really doing, if she would mind going over part of that with I believe we're doing a resolution in support of the ethnic studies, which is long overdue, to turn it over to Vice Mayor Manalo. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
She would
you.
like to comment
Vice Mayor?
that we're all in support of these.
Thank you, Council Member DiGiovanni. At this point, I think it's fitting. I will go after Dr. Rod Magwal at this time and
Okay.
leave the floor to him. And once after he speaks, I'd like to speak after him. You know, it's extremely important for us to pass this resolution as a city council, as we are a diverse city, and it's so important. But I will speak after Dr. Das Magwal, as I know he's a huge proponent in both his career as a professor and also, you know, within ethnic studies, moving along different jurisdictions.
Absolutely.
And so, Dr. Das Magwal.
Thank you, Dr. Rod.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Councilwoman Pamela DiGiovanni. Just 3 points. I think we need to support this ethnic studies model curriculum because it explores and articulates the explicit racism and the history in the United States. I think when we talk about what we learn kindergarten through 12th grade about history, it's pretty one-sided, and usually it's Eurocentric in its teaching and its pedagogy and its implementation of it. So I think what at the core of ethnic studies is that there's like 3 questions that one of my mentors, Dr. Buhalana Mawalan, said about ethnic studies. One is, what is the question, who are you? What is the history of my people? And by knowing this history, what are you going to do to create positive change in the society? And I think that's what this ethnic studies model curriculum does. Number 2, it's a rigorous educational space, because usually sometimes people have a misperception that teaching ethnic studies is just like learning how to make lumpia or how to do a cultural dance, but it's deep rooted in terms of research. It's deep rooted in terms for students to investigate and explore their histories, to understand their cultural wealth, the history of their own people, and how to apply and understand what's going on today. And it's also in their process of decolonization, because education has been used as a way to manipulate, indoctrinate, and also to assimilate people. So in my classes, I always tell people about how the education or the schooling that was used to educate indigenous peoples of America, that was actually exported to the Philippines. And that was one of the reasons why I would ask my grandpa, like, Grandpa, what did you learn about the Philippines when you grew up? And he's like, what are you talking about? I learned about the Constitution of the United States. And I couldn't understand until I got to college. So I think when we talk about this ethnic studies model curriculum, I don't want students to wait to get to college, but to have an ethnic studies curriculum that is explicit, it's out there, accessible to folks. Number 3 is that we need to support this ethnic studies model curriculum as a means to understand our traumatic history, and towards a society that's that's grounded in peace, understanding, hope, and love. I think there's been studies that talk about this idea of colonial mentality, and it's related to mental health issues and how it's related to depression or anxiety, and we have to understand and dig why it's important to have ethnic studies, because there are studies that talk about understanding the cultural wealth and the capital that people bring, that it's okay to be bilingual or trilingual, and it's okay to understand where we're coming from so we know where we're going. Lastly, I think this is such an important resolution of support to pass, because we would be the first city in the state of California to go out and say this model curriculum is important. I know there's other cities that have waited on it, but I think that given the history of Daly City, its diversity, its strength, and also what's going on today in terms of race relations in the United States, it's crucial to have this curriculum and supported by a city that is well diverse. So those are my thoughts, and I'll pass the mic to Vice Mayor.
Good job.
Thank you, Dr. Rod. Yeah, echoing the sentiment that you've mentioned, I think, it's so important for our young people to really have the history and narratives of their communities reflected within the schools. And I know it, just really proud to hear that Jefferson Elementary School District and JUHSD passed this model curriculum. And as you mentioned, as a young child, you want to learn your history. And unfortunately, for many of my generation, we only learned that through our collegiate endeavor. And being able to provide this curriculum at an early age, elementary school system, the effects of that, we will see that garner through the civic engagement. These children learning more about who they are, where they come from, the histories of what has transpired even in the United States with communities developing, such as the diversity that we've had. I mean, there's a real ownership and pride and confidence that goes with that. And it's a testament, I am thankful and really privileged to be able to be an Asian American Studies major in college. But if I imagined learning what I learned at elementary school, I mean, you are teaching young people critical skills, thinking skills, and really also being able to understand, who they are and where they place in society, and also around just advocating for themselves and really having this critical lens that is so important at a young age. And so I think I'm proud to hear that if we do pass this evening, that we would be the first city to pass this resolution, and also be able to do a service to the diversity of the community that we have, from the young people to elders, and being able to ensure that the future generation understands that we celebrate diversity not necessarily only through events, but also through education. And so I'm happy that this has been brought to council, and I'm in full support of it, because I think, as mentioned, even more so now, this is also a critical pathway for young people to understand who they are. And when you do, you also understand how to give back to the community. And I know that this is going to impact many lives, especially around the critical juncture that we are in. Exactly what has mentioned around the race relations, and also around how do we impact our communities in ways in which young people are able to see a reflection of themselves in books and in dialogue, and be the center of that discourse. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember DiGiovanni, did you want to add anything else further to this?
Yeah, I'll make my comment at the end. I didn't know if Councilmember Buenaventura would like to make a comment or, and the mayor, or, no, and I'll just say one short thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything from Councilmember Buenaventura. And
Okay,
since,
so I'll just make it real short, then the mayor. I have to echo and just say that this is the time. It's long overdue, but I believe in timing. And given that you guys have a really strong, especially Dr. Rod, educational background, this has been your life of the ethnic studies. And as the Council General said today, for the Philippines, when he does that spark, empower, connect, it's 3 words, but those 3 words are powerful because this is how it's built on it. And it's built through the education, and given the fact, as stated before by Vice Mayor, given it's in the elementary school district, is totally, this is it. And we are seeing a signal, not with just a piece of paper, but with everything we have by what we do. Sure, they're like you said, the events, but this is giving them the signal is that you matter, your identity matters, and it will actually alleviate. I'm not a doctor as far as psychology, but I do think it will help in them dealing with issues, because I think a lot of that is social identity. And when I heard also today that even in the population, given the COVID, that it's impacting our Black population, Latinos and Asians and whomever during this time, it's been tough on a lot of people. It's exacerbated the mental health issues. So moving forward, that will give them, I hope that give that foundation. You need a foundation. And I've heard it before from my colleagues, and I really believe it. And I know your words are run true, and your actions actually prove it, from my colleagues, that it will transcend. It will save their lives, in essence. So I won't take any more time. I am in full support. I am proud to be on this council and support the young people and the lives and saving their lives, and let them recognize this and to be proud about who they are. Never to shy away about who you are, because that is how we come to deal with everything in our life. So thank you very much for your time, my colleagues, the mayor, vice mayor. Thank you, I appreciate it.
thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. I have to congratulate basically everyone on council for their support of AB 2016. Apparently, Dr. Rod, you as a moderator / professor, and it's difficult to know the history of basically all cultures. That's very difficult. I'm just hoping that this bill will later on provide the mechanism for other folks to get involved and teach others other than coming from the home about the various culture, not just at home, but everywhere else. Now, you mentioned the term, and as we know it in academia, there's the pedagogical way of teaching. I am hoping that this bill addresses the andragogical way of teaching, and that is based upon calling upon the experiences of others to add and provide additional in regards to cultural studies. Pedagogical is fine for the young and the kids, and they need some sort of control, but everybody has something to bring to the table. And as you get older and as they learn, calling upon the experiences and using that andragogical method, I think can really enhance the program. So that's my thought as well. So thank you very much. All right, so not hearing any further comments on this, I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 7.
Mayor, there was one public comment that we received on this. Do you want me to read it now?
Oh, please do, Stephen. Good.
Okay.
Thank you for a reminder.
It is from Aaliyah Christie, and it's short. It says, I support the Arab American students and want to affirm my support for ethnic studies.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Okay, any further comments? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to defer the motion to Dr. Rod, and happy to second it.
I'm motion to approve the ethics studies model curriculum.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, looks like that motion passes. That is the end of the consent agenda. Okay, moving on to item number 9, and that's public hearings. Number 9 is adopting resolution approving Government Code Section 52201 summary report in connection with the disposition and development of property. And I'll turn that over to staff, Ms. Mothershead and City Attorney Ms. Zimmerman.
I'll go ahead and I'll start. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council. The item before you this evening is a resolution approving the summary report pursuant to Government Code Section 52201 for the disposition and development of the property located at the northeast corner of Junipero, Serra Boulevard and Westlake Avenue here in Daly City. As a point of background, this was all initiated by way back when by the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies back in 2011. The City of Daly City's successor agency drafted a long-range property management plan which detailed disposition strategies for former redevelopment agency properties. The plan was approved by the Oversight Board and the Department of Finance in 2015, and this property located at the northeast corner of JS and Westlake was retained for future development. So as a result, the council marketed the site back in March of 2017 through a competitive request for qualifications process. And we did get a response from Duggan, Serra Mortuary, and Serra Enterprises. In August 2017, the city initiated a second round of review for qualified development teams and requested additional project-specific information. During the second round of review, Duggan Sierra provided a formal proposal and term sheet, including a proposed offer of $2,689,000. As part of due diligence during the exclusive negotiation rights agreement phase, the city reviewed the developer's financial pro forma and provided a third-party peer review residual land analysis validating a fair reuse value of $2,689,000. Through ongoing negotiations, the City of Daly City and Duggan Sierra prepared a draft disposition and development agreement that sets forth terms and conditions for the sale and development of the site. Prior to the sale of the site, and in order for the City of Daly City to be compliant with state law regarding the lease or sale of former redevelopment property, it is necessary that the city create and make available a fair use report pursuant to California Government Code Section 52201 that affirms the fair use of the property and its creation of an economic opportunity. A copy of the proposed DDA and a summary report of the proposed transaction has been made available for the public inspection prior to this public hearing this evening. Cosmont Companies, an independent consultant to the city, prepared the summary report in compliance with the code, and it was attached to your staff report. From here, I'm going to pass it over to a very familiar face, Mr. Ken Hira from Cosmont, and he can share with you some of the information and findings that were contained in the summary report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and members of the council. It's nice to see you all again virtually, and I hope all is well. As described in the staff report for the project that's being proposed by Duggan's, Serra Mortuary, and Sierra Enterprises, cities have the ability to sell or lease land, as you all know, if certain reporting per government code is prepared. So we've done that report, and I'm going to walk through some of it in a high level. You of course have the report that's attached to the staff report, and of course the development or disposition and development agreement, which really is the binding document that you'll also hear tonight. The City of Daly City is considering approval and proposed sale and disposition of about 1.7 acres of property. That property is on at the intersection of Westlake and Serra And there are certain APN numbers which we've listed here. So we've identified the parcels. The concept of the development is a mixed use reception and events facility of approximately 52,000 square feet of building area. There is a portion on the northeast side of the intersection as well as the southeast side of the intersection. And just going back to the property which was originally purchased by the former redevelopment agency in 2003, it's been on the books and with the city since that time. So the summary report for the proposed sale of the property has been prepared by Cosmon, as mentioned. Section 52201 of the California Government Code provides that, you know, in order for the city to sell or lease a property, the goal is to create an economic opportunity. And I'll walk through the report, which allows us to find that there is in fact an economic opportunity in the sale of this property. The report needs to be made public and obviously being presented in a public setting for public consumption, a public hearing. The components that are required by 52201 Government Code is a copy of the agreement, that would be the DDA, a summary of the project, which I'll get into a little bit, the cost of the agreement to the city. The other component is the value, and we'll call it the highest and best use or fair reuse value of the property. The price, which would be the consideration that the city would receive. And then of course, if the price is less than the fair market value, if the price or consideration that's going to be received by the city, which is what the developer would pay, if it's less than that highest and best use value, we need to identify the difference and why, and there would be an additional step in that process. The other component of the 52201 report is an explanation of why the acquisition, sale, and lease of the property will assist in the creation of economic opportunity. Further in our report, the organization of the report is consistent with the requirements of the government code. And in Roman numeral 3, which is summary of proposed sale and disposition of property, I'd like to get into some of the details. Under the terms of the DDA, the city will sell the property as is for a purchase price of $2,689,000. So that establishes the price. That's the consideration the city would receive to effectuate the development of the mixed-use reception and events facility. The developer's proposed project as outlined in the DDA is approximately 52,000 square foot mixed-use reception and events facility with approximately 13,000 square feet of event space, approximately 5,600 square feet of office space, and a two-story parking garage of approximately 28,500 square feet. The cost of the agreement technically to the city is zero. So the city doesn't have a cost. In fact, they're going to receive funds instead. So there's no investment on the part of the city. Very important component of the findings of 52201. The estimated value of interest to be conveyed is $2,689,000, and the basis for that was an appraisal that was prepared and I believe accepted by the city dating back to November of 2018, prepared by a company called All Bay Valuation. What Cosmont did is we were able to utilize our licensed brokerage firm, which was Cosmont Real Estate Services, that does independent evaluation of real estate, and do what's called a broker opinion of value. And that is to say that to try to validate or support or substantiate that $2,689,000 is fair market value or highest and best use and value was an exercise we need to do currently in order to then identify what's the highest and best use of the property. So that broker opinion of value was submitted on April of this year of 2020, and it substantiates the appraised value or the price, if you will, of the $2,689,000. So as I mentioned before, what becomes important is to make sure that if there's a differentiation between price and value, that there's an explanation of the difference. Because the price is equal to the value, there's no difference, and therefore there's no economic development or economic subsidy. So I won't go through within our report, but there is background that we provided, which I think is what Tatum mentioned. And that is there was an RFQ process, competitive process, an E&A process, a price, and then of course the negotiations of a mutually agreeable disposition and development agreement that you all will opine on as a separate item. So again, consideration of the $2,689,000 results in no economic development subsidy. As for economic opportunity, which is a term that was used before, that's a very important test for 52201. I'd like to go through that, and that's the last section of our report. The proposed project facilitates the retention and expansion of a longtime member of the Daly City business community, providing essential services to the residents of the city and larger San Mateo County area. The city's economic development advisor, which was Cosmo Companies, we estimated that construction and economic activity due to the project is going to be $16.4 million, which will generate 155 temporary, direct, indirect, and induced jobs, and approximately $9.3 million in corresponding wage income in the Daly City area and San Mateo County region. So after completion, our estimate is that there'll be 10 permanent on-site jobs that will be created, as well as an additional 2 indirect induced jobs, approximately $746,000 in direct, indirect, and induced wage income, and approximately $1.6 million in direct, indirect, and induced economic activity on an ongoing basis for the city and the region. The project will generate, so going back to the test, which is within the 52201 report, the requirement is that there needs to be jobs created for every $35,000 of investment. And as you might recall, our conclusion that there's no investment on the part of the city, no cost of agreement, means that all of the job creation that comes out of this is net positive, which means it supports the test of economic opportunity. The last piece is that the project will increase property taxes by approximately 1,389% when compared to the year prior to acquisition of the property, which was by the city, which was in 2003. So that vastly exceeds, again, the 52201 report requirement of 15%, which is the threshold identified as a measure of economic opportunity in the Government Code 52200.2. So this is all to say the conclusion is that we do find that the property meets the tests and requirements of 52201. There's no gift to public funds, economic subsidy, et cetera. And the project seems to be very a net positive for the city of Daly City.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hira. Tatum, do you have any further to add on to that?
No, I have nothing further to add, but staff is available to answer questions if they come up.
Thank you so much. What I'd like to do now is open it up to my colleagues for any questions. We do have Mr. Hira here and Tatum. Do we also have the applicant also online, Tatum, as well? Yes, okay, I'm getting a nod.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
All right, great. Okay, I'll open it up to my colleagues. Okay, I guess there's no questions. What I like to do now is open it up to the public for hearing comments. And Stephen, do we have any on this item?
We have one comment. It is from Sing Kwan. And it says, I really hope that the city would address the parking issue in nearby original Daly City before the city decide to build a giant used car lot right near a neighborhood that is struggling with parking. There are a dozen homes that does not have garage or dedicated driveway. And with the new permit system, there's no allotment for temporary permit for our guests. So we've been told that we are out of luck, and basically you want to allow a huge used car lot in our neighborhood when we have an existing parking issue. Please address parking before you allow car vending machine to be built. I beg you, please give us choices with parking, or at least invest in more walking and biking space. Used car lot, come on, man.
Hey, Stephen,
I'm
this
sorry.
is Brandon. Just a very quick comment. I think that public comment is probably best suited for the next fair use report that we'll be hearing. Nonetheless, thank you for reading it.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. I kind of concur with Brandon, and so we'll keep that in mind when we get to the next item as well.
Okay.
This just pertains to the northeast corner, Duggan Sierra Mortuary. Okay. Any other?
Mr. Mayor, can I do a little introduction, a brief introduction there?
Let me see. No, this is just for right now for the open public hearing, but I'll give you a chance, Mr. Duggan, afterwards. After we close this, you're the developer and the applicant.
Correct.
So you'll have your time. Okay. All right. Any other further comments in the open public hearing?
I'm kind of going through the other public.
Hearing none.
Mayor, I'm just going through the other public hearings to make sure there's nothing that pertains to this.
Item number 9, Stephen.
Yeah, most of the public hearings tonight are related to the development at JS and Westlake. So it's possible the public may have mixed up some of the comments for the different items, but
yes.
Yeah.
I think we're good to go on this one.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing on this item. And we do have the applicant here, Mr. Duggan. So at this time, Mr. Duggan, please feel free. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sylvester, Vice Mayor Manalo, and council members Buenaventura, Di Giovanni, and Dr. Das Magnabuam. Wow, it's been almost a 3-year journey and we're finally here tonight. This is a very exciting evening for us. As you know, the Duggan family has been an active part of the Daly City community since 1963. We have enjoyed supporting numerous Daly City organizations throughout the years. This expansion of our facility by creating a new, beautiful event center will allow us to keep events and celebrations of life here in Daly City, rather than hosting events outside at other outside venues in San Francisco, South San Francisco, as well as down the peninsula. We're very thankful to the Daly City staff that has been so helpful through this process. We are not developers, we're funeral directors. I think you know that. But we are very grateful. This was a big project for us to take on, and kudos to the Daly City staff that has assisted us through this journey. We are an essential business. We're on the front lines of this pandemic. We are here to serve Daly City, yet we bring in over 78% of the families we serve come from other cities outside of our own city to support our stores, shopping centers, and eat at our restaurants here in Daly City. This project will allow us to continue to serve Daly City and continue to support the economic foundation of our community. We have an amazing development team present this evening, and we look forward to having Carvanha as a neighbor. We feel they will be a great fit at this location. Our sincere thanks to all of you for your support. Together, this project will make this part of Daly City look absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. Okay, I'll entertain any comments or questions from my colleagues. Okay, no questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ray.
Yes, I just want to say that I have a lot of tremendous respect for the Duggan family and the business that they have brought to Daly City. They have really been a rock in terms of the business community, not only in providing the services that they do, but as well as their presence in the community. They have really not shied away, but in fact have proactively injected themselves into the fabric of our society. And so really there isn't anyone in Daly City who doesn't know about Duggans and their professionalism. They seem to be the go-to place for the funeral service. And so it really, Daly City is really benefited from them tremendously. They're really sort of a landmark business here in our city and have proven to be a success. And so I have really the utmost confidence in them and their ability to develop this project and move the city even forward. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Councilmember Buenaventura. I have to concur. And Mr. Duggan, you're downplaying it. I mean, you're not just a funeral director or a funeral service. What you have given back to the community is definitely a shining example of a business that not only cares about the community, but maintains the love and the passion for the city that they provide their services in. So I have to concur. Thank you, Ray Buenaventura. You said that better than me. And I hopefully we can move forward with this project as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay. Yes, Councilmember DiGiovanni.
I'll keep mine short because I echo everything else. And Mr. Dan Duggans, just by the reading through the projects itself shows that you put you put your heart in it. You cared about Daly City. Some people want to come and just do a normal project, but this is a project you thought about us as economics. You thought about us as the families here. You thought about us as a compassion that you care and give to these families beyond. And now they'll be able to be less. You have made it cumbersome so that they do not have to get in a car and go someplace else under such dire circumstances of losing a loved one. But you made it so that everything is in one stop and continue to give the care that you always do to our community and to us as individuals. You're warm, your sunshine, and your staff is unbelievable. Outside your business, inside your business, community, library, everything you do, incredible. And the history is incredible of your family. And for that, we're forever grateful. So it shows also and reflective in this project. So I appreciate that. Thank you for all your heart.
As my mom would say, thank you most kindly.
Oh,
very nice. Okay, any comments? Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor Manalo.
Thank you. I just want to say this is an exciting point from the inception of your concept to where we are now at this juncture, and really echoing what has transpired from my colleagues. You feel your compassion and the business that you do, and we see you in the most troubling times for some folks, but your professionalism and also your candor. I mean, it just, and that exudes beyond your business, and you do that in your care within the different arenas that you give back philanthropically. And so, we wish you the best of luck. I'm glad that we're here at this point now, and just remember when it was just a concept and now it looks like it's moving along. And so, I am so happy that we're here at this juncture and excited to see how things progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Is there any other comments before we move on? Okay, not hearing any. I'd like to call for the vote, and we'll adopt the resolution by roll call. Are you folks ready?
I'll make the
Okay.
motion. I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, we have a second by Buenaventura, the first by Buenaventura, second by Vice Mayor Manalo. May I have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
I,
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Okay, that item number 9 is passed, and congratulations, Mr. Duggins, and we wish you the best.
Thank you most kindly.
All right, moving on to item number 10, disposition and development agreement between the city of Daly City and Duggan Sierra for property located at the northeast corner of Juniper Sierra Boulevard and Westlake Avenue. And Ms. Mothershead, I'll turn it over to you. Okay.
Okay. So this is related to the previous public hearing that we just had. This is the actual disposition and development agreement between the city and Duggan Sierra. I mentioned quite a bit of background, so I'll keep that brief, but it is important to note that we have been in an exclusive negotiating agreement since June of 2018. And during that time, the city and the developer have done quite a bit of negotiation. The subject of the DDA this evening is for the proposed expansion of the existing mortuary with a 2-story, 30,600 square foot event center with ground level parking. It would include 36 parking spaces and 2 offices on the ground floor with 2 chapels and an assembly event space on the main floor. There would also be an additional 22 surface parking spaces immediate south of the building. There's also a second site that Duggins is requesting to acquire, and it's across Westlake Avenue. It's a undeveloped lot located across Westlake Avenue. The city is currently using it as an access road into the city's corporation yard. The proposal here is for Duggins to acquire the site to redevelop it as a 44 space parking lot for Duggins, but they would include a perpetual easement to the city of Daly City so that the city could continue to access the corporation yard. So we sort of feel like that's a win-win for us all. But also, I think to address maybe one of the comments that was provided by a member of the public in the previous item, this is going to get a lot of extra parking to the mortuary. So we think that that could be a benefit to the community. As you know, we know that Duggins does quite a bit of business, and there are a lot of people that visit the site. I think it's important to note what the site was previously entitled for. Originally, the site was entitled back in 1999 for an office development. As part of this development proposal, Duggins, as well as a partner that you'll meet in the next public hearing, Thunder Village, work together to submit a development application to change the plan development zoning to allow the developments that they are each proposing. So that will also be on the agenda. That went to Planning Commission on June 2nd, and it'll be before you this evening as well. The council has reviewed the business deal points that are in the proposed disposition and development agreement. They have already been negotiated by the city council. There was an attachment of the disposition and development agreement to your staff report. So if you'd like to discuss any of those deal points, we can do that. The DDA was made available to the public on the city's website. So the city or the public has had an opportunity to review that. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the council if they have any questions. And also, I don't know if the developer would also like to add a few more words related to the disposition and development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mothershead. I'll open it up to council at this particular time if they have any additional questions. So this is basically across the street with a perpetual, you said perpetual, agreement for easement for access to the corporation yard. So I'm thinking perpetuals forever. Although we all don't live forever. Don't smile, Mr. Duggan. Okay, so I'll open it up to my colleague for questions.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
So
Any?
Mr. Mayor, if
Yeah.
I may,
Yeah.
just for formality, can we open and close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Rose. I was going to.
Sure.
Okay. We have a first and a second. And can we open the public hearing at this time prior to discussion? So that's what I would like to do. And Stephen, we got the previous comment, as Ms. Mothershead had mentioned. Do we have anything further for the northeast corner?
We have a comment under this public hearing, but there's so many tonight that I think people might be confused. This is referring to development on the southeast corner. So maybe I save this one.
That sounds like,
Okay.
yes.
I'll save
Yeah.
this one then for maybe the next item.
Okay, I'm trying to get now that you made mention, I'm trying to get my bearings. Item number 10 is the northeast corner, but Tatum had mentioned the southeast corner for the easement. Did I get that wrong or?
The site that the Duggans are acquiring is primarily on the northeast. And so we're making that distinction with the Thunder Village property. There is a small sliver of land on the southeastern portion,
Right.
but it's a very minor part. So when we're identifying the site for Duggans, we're saying northeast in a general sense.
Thank you. Thank you. That helps tremendously. All right. Stephen, you can do the best you can. So it's basically just a small parcel which contains, I think that previous one on number 9 was, I guess, somewhat pertaining to it because it was concerned about parking. Do we have anything similar?
I think honestly, this question, this submittal, I could save for the next one. Otherwise, we don't have any other comments. So if you want me to wait and read this one for the next public hearing, item 11. Or I can do it now, whatever you want.
Yeah, you said the magic word, Stephen, you think. So let's go ahead and err on the side of caution. And so at least we have it. Go ahead with the comment.
So this is from Claudine Falsis, and it says, I'm concerned about the parking available on the block for development on the southeast corner. Parking is very limited for the businesses on this block. The parking around our building has been impacted by the development of the businesses in the skyrise at 2171 Junipero Serra Boulevard, next to my practice of St. Francis Veterinary Hospital at 2179 Junipero Serra Boulevard. Placement of a public parking garage on this block would be very helpful. That's it.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Stephen. What I'd like to do at this time is I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 10. I believe Council Member Buenaventura had made a motion to move forward, and we did receive a second confirming, I believe that was the Vice Mayor Manalo. Is that correct?
It was myself, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, it
That's
was
okay.
you, Pam?
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
matter. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll call the question. Any further discussion from my colleagues at this time? Thank you, Rose, for the, Jocelyn, go ahead.
Oh, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 11. Adopting the resolution approving Government Code Section 52-201 summary report in connection with the disposition and development of property between the City of Daly City and Thunder Village. And I'll turn that over to Ms. Mothershead.
Thank you,
There
Mayor.
go. Okay.
Again, this item before the council is a resolution approving a summary report pursuant to Government Code Section 52201 for the disposition and development of the property located at the southeast corner of Junipero, Serra Boulevard and Westlake Avenue. I went over quite a bit of the background. The background for this is quite similar to that of Duggan's. This is a property that became made available as a result of the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies in 2011 and the process that followed. The city marketed this site, and Duggan's and Thunder Village put in a response together but separately. In this proposal from Thunder Village, they also submitted a term sheet and included a proposed offer of $2,770,000. As part of the due diligence during the ENA period, the city reviewed the developer's financial pro forma and provided a third-party peer review residual land analysis validating the fair reuse value of $2,770,000. The report has been published and made available to the public as required by the Government Code section. And again, Cosmont Companies, our independent consultant, prepared a Section 52201 summary report in compliance with the code for this proposal as well. So with that, I'd like to hand it back over to Ken Hira, and he can provide the information and findings contained in that report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and members of the council. This may sound a little familiar, but I would like to walk through just for the record that, again, in order for a city to sell property, which it's capable of doing, there does need to be a process through government code. And Section 52201 is the one that applies to the sale of this property, which is on the southeast corner of Westlake and Serra. It's about 1.02 acres. And again, the APN numbers are identified by us in the 52201 summary report. The development of the project is proposed to be a development of an automobile vehicle vending machine fulfillment center, also known as Carvanha. The applicant, of course, is Thunder Village Property 2 LLC. So there's about 44,000 square feet, roughly, as I mentioned, of land area. The site does have some buildings on it, so there would need to be some demolition. The former redevelopment agency acquired the property again, approximately 2003. And the summary report has to identify the particular areas that I've mentioned previously, but I'll go through them again. Again, a copy of the 52201 California Government Code provides that a city can't sell property or lease it if there is the creation of an economic opportunity. And the report is made public and presented in a public hearing. So the requirements of 52201 are a copy of the agreement, which is a disposition and development agreement between the city and Thunder Village, a summary of the project, again, the cost of the project, what is the cost to the city, the highest and best use value, the price, and the price is really what's being offered by the developer. And again, if there's a difference between price and highest and best use value, there needs to be an explanation of the difference. And of course, an explanation of how there is, in fact, a creation of economic opportunity. So the report is organized consistent with the government code. And in our Roman numeral 3 of the report, the purchase price by Thunder Village is $2,770,000. The project is described within the DDA as a vehicle vending machine fulfillment center where the principal uses involves displaying vehicles temporarily in a vertical automated multi-tier car, a mechanical storage and retrieval system until vehicles are retrieved for customers, and may include accessory space for office and vehicle preparation. The cost of the agreement to the city, as we've found, is zero. And then as for estimated value, whereas we talked before and the value and price were equal. There is a difference in this case. So the actual value or broker opinion of value, which I'll explain, is $2,840,000. So the purchase price is $2,770,000, and the value as estimated by Cosmont Real Estate Services licensed brokerage opinion of value, which was done April 13th of this year, is $2,840,000. So I want to spend a little time on sort of explaining that difference. The difference between those two numbers is $70,000. So the price is below the value by $70,000. The estimated value is or estimated price at $2,770,000, as we see it, is a function of some of the financial feasibility that's required in order for this project to be built. And one of the challenges that we've helped evaluate in our residual land value analysis that we did previously was, what is a financial return and what is a residual land value for a project like this? What's the underlying land worth given the development being proposed, where the sale of the property is for automobiles? There was also an appraisal that was done that was commissioned by the developer, and that was done in November of 2018. And it in fact had to contemplate a new zoning. So there's some that's why there's also some differences in value. So the price, it does have a difference, and we're trying to, in order to make our 52201 report and its findings make sense, we want to make sure that we sort of go through why those differences may or may not be acceptable to you all. We believe that they can be acceptable given the fact that the underwriting of the project, given the sale of automobiles in this environment, notwithstanding the COVID-19 pandemic and the cost of construction, because it's a relatively vertical project, is one factor on why the price is less than the value. A second, which we think is a differentiator or on the offsetter to why there's a difference, is that there is in fact a net fiscal impact or benefit to the city. So there was a report that was run by a third-party entity that identified net fiscal revenues to the city general fund in the range of $115,800 to $641,442 annually. So that seems like a pretty broad range, $116,000 to $641,000, but it does have to do with how the sale of automobiles, which are generally sort of done online in this format, how those sales tax revenues will in fact inure to the benefit of the city and its general fund. So the range is pretty broad, but what we found was that between the cost of the project and the economic or fiscal benefit of the project, those are enough to offset the $70,000 difference. So we do not find that there's an economic subsidy in this case for those reasons. In October of 2019, the fiscal and economic impact analysis was prepared by ALH Urban and Regional Economics, and their findings not only identified the range of that net fiscal impact, as I mentioned before, $116,000 to $641,000, but also the creation of permanent jobs. 11 permanent jobs will be created within the project on site. So in our reporting of the 52201 reporting and its requirements, we do need to come up with, again, economic activity. And our findings were that the $11 million will generate approximately 104 temporary, direct, indirect, or induced jobs, and approximately $8 million in corresponding wage income in Daly City and the San Mateo County region. Further, after completion, in addition to the 11 permanent on-site jobs indicated, there will be estimated to be three indirect and induced jobs as a result of the project, which will generate approximately $551,000 in direct, indirect, and induced wage income, and approximately $1.2 million in direct, indirect, and induced economic activity on an ongoing basis to the city and the San Mateo County region. As I mentioned in the previous discussion on 52201 reports, there does need to be a job created for every $35,000 of investment by the city. The cost of this agreement or the investment of the city is zero. So the job creation exceeds the test for 52201 government code. And lastly, the project will generate increased property taxes by approximately 765%. And when compared to the year to acquisition, the year prior to acquisition of the property, which was in 2003, the 15% threshold is vastly exceeded. And therefore, again, the test of economic opportunity in the government code is in fact met. So the findings sort of in summary are that the tests for the 52201 government code report are met, and there's a viable means by which for the city to sell the property to a Thunder Village for $2,770,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hira. Tatum, I'll let you close it out. Anything further?
I have no further comments. We did talk about the fiscal impact analysis, and Mr. Hira gave us a range. I just wanted to add that when the fair use report was being prepared, we were working with a range. And so with even the lowest, most conservative number, we can see that this project still provides an economic benefit. It is important to note, though, that since the preparation of the fiscal impact analysis, we did some additional work. Our finance director got the services of the city's tax consultant, Avenue Insights, who looked into the potential sales tax revenue and looked at other Carvanha facilities located throughout California. And we found that the point of sale for many of those vehicles were the sites within the cities. So we are expecting that the sales tax revenue would be at the higher range. But just to be clear, even if we were to use the lower range for the purposes of the fair use report, it meets the standard.
Thank you, Ms. Mothershead. Okay, do we have any questions from any of the city council colleagues?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. May I have a quick one for Ms. Mothershead? It's just a really quick one on the fiscal for the Carvanha. And could you walk me through, if someone purchases a vehicle online, are we able to make sure that particular, if it's online, can it make sure it's Daly City only, even though I know that the county is a play in this? Would you walk me through if someone is going to purchase a vehicle online, and are we able to do that? Are we able to guide it and make sure that those monies stay in Daly City online?
Okay, so I would ask the Director of Finance to interrupt me at any point, just because I think he's the one who's worked most closely with this. But my understanding is that if a vehicle is purchased online and then shipped directly to the buyer outside of Daly City, that would not be a Daly City purchase. However, if the buyer comes and uses and enjoys the experience of the vending machine, the point of sale is in Daly City. So when people come to pick up the vehicle at the vending machine, Daly City would be the point of sale. Based on the numbers provided by Carvanha, we could see about 3,000 sales within Daly City, roughly $20,000 per transaction. So that would yield the higher range of the sales tax, which would be over $600,000.
Yes.
Okay, so Carvanha actually, do they go and they deliver cars, correct?
They do deliver cars in some instances.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Hyde.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. They do deliver cars in some instances, but their business model is primarily derived for picking up at the location. And they are registered as a used car dealer in California, which is similar, that makes them similar to a new car sales location like City Toyota or Mitsubishi of Daly City, where the transaction occurs at the location. So it's really about where does the vehicle get picked up from? And since the vehicle is being picked up, in most cases at the Daly City or proposed Daly City Carvanha, then it's the brick and mortars part of the equation. Picking it up makes it a Daly City transaction.
Thank you very much for the clarification and great work to everyone for the sorry for the question. Just want to make sure that we clarify that. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mothershed.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I know this is the disposition of the land right now, but I think I just want to know when, as far as I think my question is around the building of, if moving forward, the building of Carvanha and other jurisdictions, have they been able to utilize and ensure that they work with local, I would say, like local unions, or ensuring they work with labor around San Mateo County? Just want to know, how has that been for Thunder Valley or Carvanha? And if this is not the place, when can I have this question addressed, as I know that this is for the disposition?
For purposes, Vice Mayor, your question is most relevant in the disposition development aspect, and I believe that there are representatives from Carvanha present to address the suggestions and points that you're making. For purposes here, this is just establishing the fair use of the land per the government code. But your questions are definitely noted, and I think would be most appropriate in the item number 12 on the disposition development aspect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. This is a message, well, basically a question for Mr. Hira. I heard the mention of COVID-19 and regards to possible construction and I guess costs. And we are trying to address that $70,000 difference. Now, the question I have, I know this has been in the works for some time. Had COVID-19 not come about, would that be a salient point in this discussion regarding the $70,000?
I think it's an excellent question. I think that because the type of what was happening pre-COVID, frankly, was that construction costs have been on the rise, and they've been making it more difficult for development to be financially feasible. So I think COVID just had a little bit of a catalyzing effect to some of this. You would potentially argue, well, gosh, if COVID is kicked in, shouldn't construction costs come down because there should be less demand theoretically? But the reality of it is it may be exacerbating some things based on timing, labor, et cetera. I think one of the main points really to offset the 70,000 is the fiscal impact. But we didn't want to ignore the idea that we are in a high cost construction environment for buildings that are relatively tall, and they get into sort of this type 1 construction. I'm not sure the type of construction, I shouldn't speak to that. But it is more and more expensive these days, to build highly vertical projects.
Thank you, Mr. Hira. To the city attorney, would this be an appropriate time either on this item or number 12 for the committee to report out on the information that we receive so that we can share with the rest of council?
I believe, go ahead. I believe that would be most appropriate for the disposition development agreement.
Okay, thought so. All right. Are there any other questions from council before we open up the public hearing? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'd like to defer to Stephen to see if we have any comments on item number 11. And this is not the disposition, but adopting the resolution for the fair use of the land.
There are no comments.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I'd like to close the public hearing at this time. Now to council. I'll entertain a motion to move with item number 11. Anybody would like to make the motion?
Motion to move item number 11.
And I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion from the rest of council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll move on to item number 12, which contains the Disposition and Development Agreement. That's the DDA between the City of Daly City and Thunder Village property. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Mothershead for an update, or what do you have? Okay, here you go.
Hi, hello again. Yes, the item before the council for this item is the disposition and development agreement between Thunder Village and the City of Daly City for the property located at the south east corner of Junipero, Serra, and Westlake Avenue. So again, much of the history is similar for this site as it was for Duggan's. The city did approve an exclusive negotiating agreement back in June of 2018. During that time of the ENA period, the city and Thunder Village have negotiated the project design and the terms and conditions of the DDA. The proposed DDA is for the proposed development of the property as a Carvanha, which is a vehicle vending machine fulfillment center where the principal use involves displaying vehicles temporarily in a vertical automated multi-tier mechanical storage and retrieval system until the vehicles are retrieved for customers. The city council, again, I think one of the critical points on this item was the fiscal impact analysis. The council was concerned about wanting to get a use that would provide economic development for the city of Daly City. So a fiscal analysis was prepared. And as you may recall, there was a wide range of potential sales tax revenue that could be generated from the site. And as we heard from the finance director, with his work through Avenue Insights, our sales tax consultant, we do believe that the sales tax revenue would be at the higher range. In order to accommodate the development as proposed, a planned development is being proposed in coordination with Duggan Sierra. That will be the next item on the agenda, will be the entitlement package. They pursued that application quite diligently, so we're excited to have it on the same night. The Planning Commission reviewed it on June 2nd and is forwarding a recommendation of plan development approval. The deal points have already been negotiated with the city council, and they are included in the draft DDA, which is attached to the staff report. The draft DDA was made available to the public on the city's website, so the public has had the opportunity to review it. And with that, staff would just like to turn it over to the council with any additional questions. And also, we do have representation from Thunder Village here this evening to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mothershead. And for everyone to know, we do have the applicant here representing Thunder Village online with us now. The vice mayor and I did participate in the committee meeting for additional information that basically addressed a lot of the questions, and I'll be more than happy to share that information with you all. So I think why don't I do that right now, so that this will help guide in some of the questions that council may have. I'd like to thank Mr. High and Brandon for your exemplary work in addressing some of the questions that council did bring up before. And that was basically, one of them was the best use, which was basically under item number 11. But I wanted to provide some additional information that I received, and so did the vice mayor, regarding Thunder Village and Carvanha. The first of is it was supposed to be 11 stories. And a concern was made that maybe it was too high, too big. So if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, they brought it down to 8 stories. And in regards to the point of sale, that was a big issue for us. And we received information based upon Mr. High looking at the other Carvanha sites, to include Westminster. I think it was down in Southern California. There was one other site that escapes me now. And the tax, we took the conservative approach, and I think we were down to approximately $120,000 or $141,000 conservative approach. But based upon the performers provided by Carvanha, that can go as high as close to $600,000. So Councilmember Di Giovanni did lead to that earlier in her question, especially as to where the vehicles are picked up or delivered. As you know, Carvanha, excuse me, delivers vehicles also. So those vehicles that are delivered, say, outside of Daly City, we would not be able to obtain the point of sale. However, if a vehicle is delivered from Southern California, they come from all different sites. If the person picks up the vehicle in Daly City, we would get that point of sale tax, the higher end. So I think that's a positive for us. And for Mr. Brandon Phillips providing the information, what if we put a hotel there or another office building? I think that this would be the way to go. And lastly, along the vice mayor's concerns, she's concerned about community involvement. And so I received an attachment, and be more than happy to share with everyone. But Carvanha has done a lot in being involved in the community, and by attending various events, having tables at various events. And I strongly feel that they would be a good partner. And I think they would learn a lot from Mr. Duggan, because if they see what he does, it says, oh, okay, yeah, okay, well, we're there with you. So I think it makes for a great partnership. And I think this would be something good for Daly City. So with that, I'll turn it over to the vice mayor if she has anything that I may have missed.
No, Mr. Mayor, I think you covered what we've gone through in the committee, and really the major concern around point of sale and how much the city would receive, and that clarification that every car that's picked up would actually go to city of Daly City as far as that tax. And I think, I appreciate that there was a response back. I think for me, it's also important to understand like what has the company done in or around the local community that they are in, and received a document around how they are involved in other municipalities as far as being able to be a good neighbor within the where they are going to be building the Carvanha, I guess that's what you say, building, and also being a good neighbor. I know also one issue, and I think it was addressed around like hiring locally, being able to provide those jobs to our local residents, I think is also an important factor. One question I wasn't resolved within the committee that I do have is just understanding when you do build these Carvanha towers, you utilize and ensure that you pay prevailing wage and also work with the local, I would say the local trades within, the area. So that's a question that I have. For
Sorry.
the developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you for that reminder because we really didn't get an answer. Rose would probably say that will come into the negotiations later as one of the points and conditions that we can ask. But I see Joe Ryan is here. So before that, I want to get any other questions that we may have missed so that Ms. Ryan can address all of those at once. Does anyone else have any questions?
No,
Okay, Ms. Ryan. Oh, go ahead, Pam.
No. I just wanted to say that it was the same, that probably there were talks. Were there any talks inside the ad hoc committee? Probably the beginning that you guys discussed, probably the labor in the ad hoc committee? But
Thank
we have
you.
to wait.
No. Thank you, Pam. I think that was going along the lines of what the Vice Mayor requested.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Utilize PWA if possible, and I'll let Ms.
Thank
Ryan
you.
speak on that. Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, thank
Ms.
you.
Ryan. Thank you.
evening.
Ms. Ryan, welcome. You have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Joe Ryan, Senior Project Manager with Carvanha. My Senior Director, Brett Sassenberg, is also available to answer questions. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. We're very honored to be here before you tonight. Staff has bent over backwards and worked very hard and very diligently to get us to this point. Again, I want to give high kudos to your staff for resolving the sales tax issue because we really felt that did need to be clarified, but it needed to be clarified by experts. I'm not a tax expert or a sales tax expert, so I'm just glad that that was able to be resolved satisfactorily. So that's a really positive. I'd also like to say that we're very honored to be partnering with the Duggans and with Thunder Village and with Daly City. This has been a remarkable partnership, and we look forward to what's to come. We have been through the COVID pandemic. We have made significant headways in the way that we do touchless delivery. That was something that was pretty much what we were doing before, just adding a few extra steps. And so our business model has been very successful through the pandemic. And we just anticipate that it will continue to further. The appointments in our vending machine for picking up also complies with CDC regulations for social distancing. There's only 3 or 4 appointments that are spaced out and timed and pre-scheduled for picking up at the vending machine. I'd like to say that the size of our building is much less intense than what was permitted, and you alluded to that before. Our tower really is only 40 feet wide, so it is much more narrow and less intrusive than the larger commercial office building that would have been permitted there. Out of sensitivity towards residential neighbors, we did lower the height of the tower. We were planning to do it at 110 feet, now we're at 75. We also were sensitive to potential issues with light and glare and the residences looking at the cars in the tower. So we opted to do something a little more subtle and just less disruptive to their daily lives. So we have changed our model to be a solid wall on the east facing wall, which we have never done before, but we've never been this close to residences in a community where we just really we always want to be good neighbors. So that was something we just did before. And as far as I knew, up until today, we hadn't received any comments or concerns from the neighbors. So I'm curious to see, as they're coming in electronically tonight, I look forward to addressing those comments. And Brett, again, is here with me. And I'm also glad that you received the materials about community involvement. We really believe that investing in the community where we live and work, it not only engages our employees, but it it retains passionate employees, because we do budget time and resources and money and encourage our employees to do at least one or more volunteer service or event per quarter. So it's just part of the Carvanha way. We have a very customer friendly and family supportive kind of culture here. So we just really look forward to being a part of Daly City, and we're just really excited to be here tonight. So I'm sorry if I didn't answer all of the questions or concerns that were raised so far, but I think we'll have a chance as we go on.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. A question did come up with PWA, prevailing wage. Is this appropriate at this time, Rose, to ask, or that would come?
We are talking about the terms of the DDA, and as indicated, the disposition, we did negotiate that to the extent that it was allowable and required by federal and state law, that we would have prevailing wage. There was no public labor agreement that was part of the terms that was agreed upon. But I know that my understanding is, to the extent that it was needed and needed prevailing wage, those were the terms that we agreed upon. I do know, I believe that the applicant is here. So to the extent that you want to ask additional questions as it pertains to public labor agreement, I believe they're available.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ryan. The applicant is here, and perhaps you could address that concern as well that we have.
Is the applicant here?
Yeah, hi, this is Kevin Lewis.
Oh, there you are, Kevin. Sorry.
Yeah, hey, sorry. No, first let me just say good evening to the council members. It's been a very long process working on this, and we hope to conclude this. And you guys have not had the benefit that I have of visiting these Carvanha sites, but they're very beautiful structures, and they really will enhance that area along with the Duggan site. I just wanted to say that because you guys have the benefit of seeing those towers. As far as the, I think Brett or Joe can address the actual construction, but I think we are looking at all options of how to construct and the method to construct this. And so I think union labor is a potential, but I don't think we're at that point yet.
Okay, thank you so much. I see, is it Mr. B. Sasson? Did you want to say something, sir?
Sure. Members of the council, Mayor Sylvester, Vice Mayor. Generally, we locally bid all of these projects, and local subcontractors come out for those bids. We try to be as competitive as possible. Generally, we end up at a prevailing wage because it is such a competitive market, at least pre-COVID. To the gentleman that suggested, who knows how construction impacts are going to fare out post-COVID, I think they still will be in the Bay Area very competitive. There are some specific equipment pieces, however, that are not or will not be bought in the Bay Area. The elevator itself, some of the specialty millwork that we have as a brand component are made outside of the Bay, but the local labor that stands it up, the steel that is erected will be done locally and most likely at a very competitive wage, which I would imagine is prevailing. It's up to the general contractor in any market. We have no objections and have built in union and non-union and signatory states to working with either one of those parties.
Thank you, sir. Okay, do we have any other questions from council?
Yeah, just a quick one. Oh, go ahead. Just go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Council member, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And maybe the same thing that the Vice Mayor was thinking about. Are we able to, even though they don't have an objection either way, union, non-union, I guess, is it too early to tell, Rose? Or are we able to get that in the agreement? Or
So to have an enforceable public labor agreement was not specifically discussed as one of the terms that was agreed upon.
Oh, okay.
This disposition development agreement. My understanding is this was a deal point that was discussed, and the terms that were agreed upon is to the extent that it was required that prevailing wage under federal and state law, that is written into the contract, that it would be required, and that the contractor and the developer would provide us all of the necessary information to track that. But there is no specific terms for a enforceable public labor agreement in the agreement. So it is to the general contractor, and if we're going to be bidding locally, that would be the general contractor. And if the competitive market brought upon a prevailing wage, then that would be required by state law, and that would be part of the development agreement.
Okay, but just for the future as well, what process would have been advantageous to have discussed appealing in the beginning, right?
In the beginning of the term sheets, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, and that was like, well, this started a while ago. I think it was even before some of us were on the council. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Is there any way just to provide to ensure that the outreach mechanism to local labor, is there a way to ensure that there is like a list or kind of correspondence to make sure that these bids are actually sent out to the local area?
Is that to the applicant?
I would defer to the applicant on that.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, that's up to the general contractor will bid. We don't generally mandate, because obviously if the labor is in Daly City with the unique ability to construct mid-rise, high-rise, and they're competitive, by all means, there's no objection from us. We generally have never had to stick to any one city because you don't know what labor force is available. And we wouldn't want to put anyone in a position that they can't construct, even though they were Daly City residents and or business operators. So we've never done that. I think the general contractors go out the most qualified for that, and they may not be in the city. So that would be something new to us, and I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, I understand that it may not be in the local city, but I'm talking about more in the realm. Is there a way that you would be able to meet with various trades around what opportunities are in the pipeline? I mean, really just that hearing that good faith effort to see how there could be a match within the construction work that you have down the pipeline and around, able to hire locally within the building trades that we have here in our county.
I would imagine
San
that.
Mateo County, that is.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I would imagine that a lot of the employment that will come from subcontractors constructing in the Bay are going to come from the county, potentially even be residents of Daly City. Again, there are only a handful of, let's call them traveling vendors, traveling subcontractors that work with us because of the uniqueness of some of the technical components of an automated parking system. But the majority of the labor is probably going to come from Northern California.
Would it be possible for your team to meet with our San Mateo, some of our San Mateo groups, the different trades in San Mateo County to see? I mean, you mentioned that it may be folks in Northern California, but potentially is there a way to even meet with these groups to see where there is a potential match? Right. And not necessarily, you still have to bid, but understanding what's coming down the pipeline and being able to work with the San Mateo trades that are existent within our community. Would you be open to meeting with them and seeing how there could be, this a potential fit, right, around jobs are coming down the pipeline. I know it's not a huge development, but yet that's still jobs that can be provided within San Mateo County.
Yeah, Mayor Sylvester and Vice Mayor, I ultimately the general contractor, I think, would drive that. We could encourage them to meet with the groups you're talking about. I'm sure between Mr. Duggans and ourselves, there's probably a lot of local vendors that would be interested when the bidding process begins. Being that I don't know who they are or how to get in touch with them, I think what we can do is encourage the general contractor to make efforts to reach out locally. And if you have a particular list of vendors that you're aware of that we can notify of the bid process, by all means, we would do that. But and I don't want to skirt the issue. We're just not in control of that process. For example, and again, I don't want to be coy. We don't select the plumber, for example, when we bid one of these. That's just not. We don't get to the minutia of who the plumber is. We just look to the overall cost of the project when selecting the general contractor.
Understood. So working with the general contractor that you hire and down the pipeline, is there a possibility in which, understanding that you're not necessarily the one that's going to hire and it's going to be your general contractor, is there a way to ensure with our discussion this evening that there is some sort of something written that we can have that says the general contractor that you hire will, be able to even set up a meeting with these various labor trades? So I understand that you're saying it's not you, but it's going to be the general contractor that you're going to hire. So that's where I'm at. Like, is there any way to just even be able to write that down or codify it so that that's something that is feasible to occur? I know it's not going to be you that's going to be hiring directly.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is Richard. So if I can jump in here just a little bit, in terms of a lot of the projects that we do in Daly City and other agencies, there's local building exchange companies where contractors do have the ability to look for contractors, subcontractors that are in that particular area, and they would be notified of certain types of projects. And they would have the ability to kind of submit bids to the contractor or to the owner. That may be a way to address Vice Mayor's concern in regards to making sure that local contractors within the area are made aware of the project. And so that is a place that contractors and government agencies can go to advertise their project, and it goes out to the local peninsula area or the area where the work is being done. So that may be an option to consider.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rose.
I would suggest, and thank you, Richard, for that. Perhaps to address Vice Mayor's concerns in the invitation of bids for the project, we can make that somewhat an option for the developer to advertise, invite in bids as it pertains to the projects, to bid on this project, to seek out perhaps from the local roster that Richard is indicating. And I don't know exactly what that is, Richard, but is that a program or is that something that we can have the developer provide an invitation of bids for their project?
It's
bid on the project.
Yeah, there's various local building exchange companies throughout the Bay Area. We can provide the contractor with a list of the building exchanges and plan rooms that we distribute our plans to. It doesn't mean that they have to hire people from there, but
no,
at least.
But you would advertise and do an open invitation to the project that is in Daly City to have a local exchange and access for these contractors and developers to bid on the project.
yeah, at least the local contractors and subcontractors would be aware of the project, and they have the opportunity to bid if they so choose to.
Okay.
So we'd be happy to provide that information if they're interested in that.
Thank you, Mr. Chu and Rose and Mr. Sasson. Vice Mayor, did that address your concern?
Yeah, I think if there is a way to ensure that list, that when these bids are out, that there's the list of building trades, this exchange that that Director Chu has mentioned, that there's any way, just to signal that, look, we reached out to them, or they actually put it within these websites. I think that's some of the detail I would ask Director Chu. Is it a website in which they put their project on, but also be able to send a list of all of the local trade organizations within San Mateo County, and also share that list with the developers this evening?
Yeah, a lot of these local building exchanges, they have online plan rooms and things like that, that contractors do have the ability to visit and see if it's a project that kind of something that they're interested in. So yes, we can certainly share that information and provide the local contacts to the applicant.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that would address it. I think in exchange, just understanding if there's any way we can get a receipt that it was done. I know it's good faith efforts. I know that you work locally in the communities you work with. You said you hire locally. It's just just a check and balance. I mean, we're at this point right now, very close, but if that can be included in the deal points. Rose, I defer to you how that could be codified and written within this agreement.
I am going to take a stab at it in terms of we are in consideration for the deal points, because I don't believe this significantly changes the deal points that we have previously discussed as for purposes of DDAs. And I know that the lawyers can craft language, and I would suggest, and I guess we can discuss it, that it sounds to me, given the concerns of the Vice Mayor, is that the developer make a good faith effort to reach out through this local exchange program, providing the invitation to bids, or reaching out as an exchange to local contractors as provided by our Director of Public Works, and use this as a resource and provide some level of proof or exchange to the city that resource has been utilized for purposes of invitation of bids, and we can craft that language within the DDA language. That's something that appears to be where Vice Mayor addresses her concerns.
Yes, yes, I think
that is
it. No, I think that's it, inclusive of all the San Mateo trades. And so I know that's an extensive list that Director Chu has, but then in addition to that, I would ask if that was also a possibility to extend that to all of the, building trade organizations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you as well. I don't want to add any more to this. I was going to make a comment, but it looks like it was all covered by everyone. So thank you so much. On item number, is there anyone else who has questions for the applicant or anyone before we open it up to public hearing? Okay, didn't hear any additional comments. I'd like to open it up to public hearing at this time on item number 12. And I'll defer to Stephen if you see anything.
I am just refreshing the screen. There are no public comments.
Thank you very much, Stephen. All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing at this time, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Does anyone want to make a motion? Rose, can I make that motion?
Go ahead,
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the disposition and development, the DDA, between the City of Daly City and KGE Thunder Village property.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Buenaventura. Is there any further questions or discussions at this time? Okay, hearing, yes. Vice
Go
Mayor.
ahead. Vice Mayor, did you want to say something?
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm in support of it, just ensuring that what we mentioned today is included within the final form.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to point out. I know there was a motion and a second on the table through the mayor to address the concerns that the vice mayor has indicated, and I made some suggestions in terms of language as it pertains to exchange of resources for local builders in the areas. An invitation is that the city attorney craft that language to form in the DDA to codify the concerns of the mayor, if you want to include that as part of the motion as an amendment, and that's through the chair.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. I'm more than willing to redo the motion to add as amended and recommendations put forward by with the Vice Mayor in crafting language.
Okay.
Second also.
Okay,
With that, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion from my colleagues at this time? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Di Giovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 13, Plan Development PD -04-19-013-998, and that's use permit UPR -04-19-013-999. And I guess I'll turn it over to the city attorney for findings.
Actually, we were going to have Ms. Morales address the staff report on the plan development, and then I can address the reading of the ordinance. Thank you.
Great. I'm sorry, Ms. Morales. It says it right here, so I'll turn the floor over to you. My apologies.
That's all right. Thank you. So I know we've talked quite a bit about these two projects. Hopefully this presentation will give more of a perspective from the land use perspective, as well as what entitlements are required and are presented before you today. So let me just share my screen. So Stephen, it looks like the share screen is disabled for me.
It should be working now.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so I am presenting the Duggan, Serra Mortuary and Carvanha project, which the past items have been on. So this is in terms of what entitlements are required. So just some background on the land use history. There was a specific plan adopted for this area along Junipero Serra in 1986. And there was also an environmental impact report completed in 1999 that analyzed a development project. But as of today, there has only been development on blocks 50 and 51, and block 52, where the proposed project is located, remains undeveloped, as I'm sure you're all aware. And this just shows where the blocks are situated along Junipero Serra. And just a brief background, I know we've talked at length about this in the past items. As you know, the applicants are Serra Enterprises and they represent Duggan's and Thunder Village, which will be ground leasing the southeastern site south of Westlake Avenue to Carvanha. And after this process, there will be 3 parcel maps created, or I believe 2 parcel maps that will create 3 lots. There'll be 2 for Duggan's, which will be on the north and southeast side of Westlake Avenue, and the southeast side for Carvanha / Thunder Village. And this shows a site map showing where the project site is located. As you can see, Westlake Avenue cuts across the project site. And since this does require a plan development amendment, this shows the area located within the actual PD. Some of the area within the project site, like a traffic circle and site improvements, are a little bit outside of it. So we're only focusing on what's within the building site area. And here are a few aerial views of the project site. This is north of Westlake Avenue, currently being used as a parking lot. And you can see the existing mortuary building right at the top of the photo. And here is south of Westlake Avenue, you see the access road heading to the City Corporation Yard, as well as the existing buildings along Westlake Avenue and Junipero, Serra. So this project has 3 sites. 2 of the sites is for Duggan's, and 1 includes a new event center that will be located at the northeast corner of Junipero, Serra and Westlake Avenue. And a second site, as mentioned earlier, a surface parking lot, and then the total site area will be 2.18 acres. The existing mortuary building is not included in this project proposal, and generally the intention of this proposal is to allow for more flexibility to host larger gatherings for the mortuary, as well as host a wider variety of services, as Mr. Duggan has mentioned previously. As for the third site, that is where the Carvanha site will be located, where they will be constructing their vending machine fulfillment center, and it's approximately 1 acre. And as they've discussed previously, this is where they will be picking up the vehicles if they choose to not have them delivered to their homes. So here's a site plan showing all 3 sites. You can see where they're positioned based on where Westlake Avenue is and where Junipero, Serra is. So I'll go over each site briefly and just provide you with some renderings and some drawings that they provided to us. So for the Duggan's Event Center, it is a 2-story, about approximately 30,000 square foot building. There will be some parking space on the bottom floor as well as office space. And on the main floor is where all of the commercial space will be located. It will be approximately 47 feet in height, or a maximum of. There will be a small surface parking just south of the building. And as I mentioned before, they are going to be adding a new traffic circle, as well as some new landscaping and repaving the existing parking lot. And here is a site plan of just the Duggan's Event Center site. The traffic circle is right above the building, and it will connect to a mid-block crossing that will provide or facilitate access to the parking lot. And here are some floor plans. The ground floor is on the left side, and on the right side is the second floor, or the ground level floor. Or I'm sorry, the main level floor. And here are some elevations of the proposed building. So the top elevation would what you'd be seeing in front of Junipero, Serra. And then the entrance to the garage would be the bottom elevation. And this is the east and north elevation. So you can see this from the existing building and from the parking garage. Here are some renderings of the proposed building. So this is a view from Junipero, Serra. And this is from the traffic circle and the existing building. As for the parking lot, there will be 44 parking spaces. They will maintain the easement to the City Corporation Yard. As well, as I mentioned before, it also includes a mid-block pedestrian crosswalk, which will facilitate access to and from the parking lot across the site. And here is a site plan of the parking lot. And this is also just a landscape plan showing what they're proposing in terms of shrubs and trees, etc., and as well as what the traffic circle may look like. So for the last site, which is site number 3, this is where the Carvanha Vending Machine Fulfillment Center will be located. It will be 8 tiers, approximately 5,800 square feet. It's located at the southeast corner of Junipero, Serra, and Westlake Avenue. So the main floor will be where all the ground space or all the commercial space is. That's where the vehicle delivery bays are, where the office and customer service spaces are. And then the rest of the building is the tower component, where the elevator system will be located. So you can see 4 cars per tier. It will be a maximum of height of 75 feet. And included in this proposal is signage. I will go more into detail on that. The master sign program needs to be amended, so they're including their signs in this proposal. Lastly, there will be a 32 space parking lot for their customers, staff, and a temporary holding space for vehicles delivered to the site. And I know that Carvanha has discussed this briefly in the previous public hearings, but just to go over briefly, this is just for customer pickup, so there won't be any vehicles sold or serviced on site. The vehicles are all loaded into the tower before the customer picks it up. They have a unique vehicle retrieval system where you place a token and it activates the process. It takes about approximately 3 minutes. And vehicle delivery will happen twice a day, up to 6 days a week during non-peak hours. And I'm sure Ms. Ryan can speak more in depth on that if there are any other questions regarding their operations. Here is the Carvanha site plan. The tower is on the right side. So it's the farthest away from Westlake Avenue. And here's a landscape plan showing the proposed trees and shrubs, etc. And the proposed ground level on the left side and the proposed tiers. So each tier will look the same. And as I mentioned before, there will be 4 cars per tier. And here are the elevations for the proposed building. And on the right side, you'll see that they have modified the glass facade into a stucco material. And I'll speak more on that in terms of what we discussed with staff, with the applicant, and why they decided to move in that direction. Here's the proposed signage. So the current sign program only allows 1 business sign for, or 1 business sign on each street frontage for corner tenants or corner properties. And this is the proposed signage that Carvanha is proposing. So there are some logo signs and company brand signs on the top, as well as some flag mounted signs on the ground level. And here are some contextual views. This is from Junipero Serra Boulevard. This is from the intersection of Niantic Avenue and Westlake Avenue, so near the residential neighborhood. And this is what you would see a little if you were to go a little higher from Niantic Avenue. And this is the view from I-280 from the freeway. In regards to the proposed parking, both sites will comply with the zoning code requirements. For Duggan, 88 spaces are required and they're proposing 110 spaces total on both sites. As for Carvanha, 23 spaces are required and they're proposing 32. Regarding the proposed zoning amendment, so currently it's zone PD 54, and within this zoning district, it separates the development into 3 phases. This project site is located within phase 3, which allows for various commercial uses as well as parking facilities. I believe they envisioned an office building as well as a parking garage, but those were never developed. So to allow this proposed development, we would have to amend PD 54 to allow the event center as a permitted use. And we have allowed the Carvanha site as a used car sale as a conditional use, and all of the development standards would be revised accordingly. To go into more depth on the use permit for the Carvanha site, as I mentioned, the proposed use, which is a used car sales use, would require a use permit. So they've gone through that process, and they have addressed many of staff's concerns regarding potential impacts to the residential neighborhoods in the form of technical studies. So in their light study, they showed that there would be no light pollution from the signage beyond the property lines. The glass material would minimize glare based on the type of brand that they're using, and that the noise level from the elevator system would comply with the municipal code requirements. In addition, they have decided, or Carvanha has decided, to further the minimizing of their visual impacts by reducing the height of the tower. So the original proposal was 110 feet, which was 12 tiers, and they've lowered it to 8 tiers. And they have revised the eastern elevation from a glass window facade to a stucco material. After some discussion with staff, we've decided to impose an additional condition of approval to incorporate some architectural or design interests on the east elevation. Right now, there's just some scoring, and we'd like to see a little bit more. So we'll work with Carvanha on that during the plan check stage. In addition to the proposed use, the master sign program amendment does require a use permit. So the signs that I showed previously, the way that we would amend the proposed amendment is to allow corner tenants and large tenants to have multiple business signs for each separate frontage and one additional elevation. And then we would impose additional restrictions for those tenants that have multiple signage. And to go over the design review of the proposed buildings, this is the color and materials board for the Duggan's building. And the Duggan's building did a great job with harmonizing with the existing mortuary building, but also including some contemporary elements that are more in line with what's been proposed around Daly City today. It is very reminiscent of mission style architecture, and we had made sure that the future signage would complement with the building, as well as the amended master sign program, so they wouldn't have to go through another amendment process later on. Here is the proposed Carvanha building. You can see the proposed materials and colors on the rendering. And this is a contemporary building design that is pretty much iconic for Carvanha. This is what they use to highlight their vending machines. So the facades are mostly glass to allow customers as well as the public to see how the elevator system operates. They have blue accent paneling and accent lighting. And as I mentioned before, we have added a condition of approval to improve the east elevation, and we'll discuss that in the plan check stage. As for the fiscal analysis and impacts, I won't go into much depth on this as we've discussed it in the previous items, but it has gone through a pretty comprehensive review for the Carvanha site, as well as a review from the financial director. And the determination was that they would be at the higher range in terms of the general fund revenues, but there would also be additional fees that the applicants would have to pay in terms of pre and post construction related fees, and we just wanted the council to be aware of that. As for the environmental assessment of this project, our CEQA consultant, who is also here tonight in case there's any questions, did prepare an initial study and determined that they would amend or they would have an addendum that tiers from the previous EIR, so the EIR for the previous development project, as well as the general plan EIR that was adopted in 2013, and they determined that was the appropriate level of environmental review. And the addendum did conclude that there were no significant environmental impacts. In the staff report as an attachment, there's also mitigation measures included in the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And here's a list of a summary of the findings that are included in the staff report. And in conclusion, the Planning Commission, who recommended approval on June 2nd, 2020 of this month, recommend that the City Council take the following actions, which is to adopt the findings as outlined in the staff report, approve addendums to the Peninsula Gateway SEIR and General Plan FEIR, and adopt the mitigation and monitoring report program prepared for the project as appropriate measures of environmental review for the project. and approve the plan development use permit and design review subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions. And I mentioned we have the consultants from the applicants team as well as our secret consultant here to speak if there are any questions related to that. But I'd just like to ask, I know that the applicants have already spoken in the previous items. I'm not sure if they want to make another presentation, but I'll let them decide on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Morales. Very, very excellent report and update. Prior to open up to public hearing, do any of my colleagues have any comments at this time?
Mr. Mayor, just a couple. Thank you, Ms. Morales. Excellent job. The thing I was thinking about is, I don't see in the report, I don't know if we're able to ask this at the time, but I know that probably our ad hoc committee or council, because our PBRC, where are they moving to? Because they're going to be displaced, right? Rose?
I don't know. I know that
we're going to have a place for them, right?
Informally, I believe that they are seeking other venues and places for PBRC. Okay. I don't know at this time, but I know that it's in the works.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure that we'll make sure that, okay. And the second thing is they're on the blank wall. Is the applicant available? Would they consider, even though it's a contemporary design, would they put a contemporary mural and make it a true community? A lot of people have contacted and said, even the person I'm going to close the memory of, that there are a lot of artists in our community as well, and make it a contemporary to match it on the stucco side.
Mayor Sylvester, Vice Mayor Manalo, as a prior chair of the Scottsdale Public Art Board, I can totally appreciate the desire for a touch of art or flair of some sort. The challenge for us in that consideration, and we're open to looking at options, is that it is a branded facility. And so we want to be cautious about how we confuse brand with community outreach. But again, as we work through with staff, how to modify that rear for some level of beautification, we're very open. I mean, we control our design. It's a unique thing to us, so we can be creative, and we're more than willing. I want to tiptoe around our brand, and then of course a public art component.
Yeah, I'm very respectful of that. Definitely respectful of that, because the Carvanha, you already changed the design to help the neighborhood, which I do appreciate that. So maybe, because I was thinking it could be conflicting as well, not to have one and keep it that way because of the distraction. I'm not sure how that would work, but I appreciate that.
Thank you. And it's gone both ways in different markets, and it's always hard to know how the neighbors will react. And so, and again, as someone who's been a driver for public art, most art that gets great praise is the art that gets the worst praise, and I don't know that our brand necessarily wants that. And so we just want to be cautious.
Yeah, I agree. And then you need to be in the neighborhood anyway, first to see how everything goes.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like moving in, even if you're just a resident, and then you want to see how the neighbors are and get to know them, maybe have some food or whatever, break bread. But yeah, I appreciate that, because I like the design. It is contemporary. So I was kind of thinking, even in my head, I was thinking it's a little conflicting. That may not be the spot. Maybe somewhere where you and Duggan's and Thunder Village find something on the property, maybe a fountain or something like that. Might be more appropriate. But thank you for that. Thank you for listening.
You bet.
A beautiful design.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Any other questions for the applicant or Ms. Morales' presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Go ahead, Councilmember Buenaventura.
If I could have someone walk me through the delivery of the car. So let's say I go on your website and I pick a car and we do the transaction. Now, so what's the next step in terms of getting the car, and what do I need to do?
Sure. Vice Mayor, excuse me, Mayor Sylvester and Vice Mayor, the process is actually quite easy, and it's a disruptor to the traditional model of auto sales. So at any one point, we could have between 15,000 and 30,000 cars that you could select from on our website. So clearly that's going to create a lot of choice. We also finance for customers. So we try to have every vertical as it's associated with car buying or car selling. So if you're trading in or want to just sell your car to us, we do that. Once you've selected your car, there's some pre-qualifications, obviously like any car purchase. But if you pass that, or you finance through us, or you're paying cash, the next step is simply setting up a schedule to either pick it up or have it delivered to your house. Depending on where that vehicle is in our network can determine how many days it may take to get to you. But that's it. That's the new process for car buying. And as we all know what Amazon did for book buying and eventually all buying, Carvanha is essentially trying to do that for auto. And auto has always had the stigma of a tough time or a difficult day. And we've tried to turn that into a very simple process. I think we've had customers buy a car in as quickly as 8 minutes on our website. So once it's selected and once you've either determined to pick it up at the vending machine or have it dropped off, we come to your house, you sign the final paperwork. Most of everything else is done online. We give you the keys. You have 7 days, what we call a 7-day test drive. It depends on the state. You have to use a different vernacular, but you have 7 days to finally determine if you want to keep it or if you want us to come get it and either get you something else or just cancel that transaction, which takes a lot of the risk out because it obviously is sight unseen. We do have a patented photo system that shows all the imperfections and annotations of any special features that that vehicle might have so that you can ensure that your buy is what you're hoping for. But then again, that 7-day mitigates some of that concern or risk. One thing I did want to note that not only would Daly City achieve the tax revenue of any car picked up, but obviously any Daly City resident that has a delivery to their house, that it would also be attributable to Daly City. But that's it. And you know, we used to have a very long presentation about what Carvanha does, and the more I do this, the shorter it gets because it's just that simple. There's this catchphrase that we've heard many times. It's the Amazon of car buying. And I think for most people nowadays that resonates. I understand what that is. I go online, I find what I want, I pick it, it's delivered. So that's how it works for us, which is again, a little unique to traditional brick and mortar car dealing. And that's why you don't have the on-site cars. So you can't go to the vending machine and pick a car that's already there. Those cars are already sold, or it's an employee's car. You do it all online. So we don't have the Sunday fanfare with balloons and rattlers or someone on the microphone screaming out for a service order to the back lot. This is simply an experience location where you come and collect your vehicle.
So tell me about the sales and the pricing. Is there a set price? There's no haggling for the prices?
That's right. We benchmark against the usual suspects, KBB, Kelley Blue Book, market to market. And right now, because of our model, we believe we can be more competitive than most in any market. Car buying is becoming kind of a national thing, so the prices are generally flattening. But yeah, we don't haggle, so we don't force the customer to think there needs to be a haggle. We don't have an advocate on the other line, other end of the phone, who's really just there to help you with the process, trying to figure out how to haggle. The price that you see for the car is the price that you pay for it. It includes the shipping and delivery, so it's all inclusive. You don't have a lot of dealer and dock fees that are not discussed in most auto sales advertisements. So at the end of the day, it's better for us to not haggle, and we believe ultimately it's better for all of us as customers to not have to haggle. Some people love it. I think new car or newer buyers are not accustomed to it, not in favor of it, and quite frankly, I think with e-commerce and unfortunately with what COVID's done, nobody wants to do it anymore.
Okay. Can you tell me about the building itself when, because the mayor just sent a link to show the actual vending machine process. And I was just curious, is the vending machine process something that the people in the community are going to see the the cars going up and down and circulating, are they going to see that continuously? Is that how, are the people, the traffic, the community, is that constantly going to be going on, the up and down and moving of the cars inside the building? Or what part of it do we see?
Sure, Councilmember, for all of our sake, I hope it is going up and down a lot for tax generation and for business profits. It is visible. It is a display tower, so you can witness the elevator going up and selecting the vehicle from any particular pallet and bringing it down. Clearly, the closer you get, the more you'll actually get to experience what you're seeing. I think if you're on the freeway at 55, generally you're not gonna, you might catch a glimpse of it. But yes, it is visible to anyone to see. And the reason it's visible is we want the customer as they arrive to be able to look up and see their vehicle on whatever level that is, and then have the enjoyment of watching this machine so effortlessly go up and select that car and then bring it down and do a little spin for them. Because if you recall how this works, that's the first time they're physically seeing the car. And so there's a bit of an excitement of it's there, but I can't get to it. And now it comes on this awesome, very powerful machine to bring it down to me as I vend it out. So it's more about the customer's experience than it necessarily is for any passerby. But if you happen to drive by when it's vending, yes, you'll witness it moving.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Very helpful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Those are some very important questions. And I've been to the site on Carvanha, and I just wanted to add what I like about it is everything is consummated online, to including obtaining the loan approval. And basically, when you come to the pickup site, all you there is you sign the paper and they give you the coin, and down comes your car. I like the idea about no haggling, because an astute person, especially being a consumer, he or she is probably going to say, well, Carvanha is offering it for $15,000, and they will check to see, well, maybe I can find it somewhere else. And if they do find it somewhere else, then good luck to them, because if you want to go travel to Texas to go pick it up, save you a couple of $100, or you can have it, like, say, within a week. And I like that 7-day return policy as well. I think that's excellent. I like the concept. And basically, I would wish you luck on this.
Thank you, Mayor.
So thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions. This to Ms. Morales. I did see the rendition. I'm concerned about the egress and the ingress, and is it only going to be on the JS side? Would they be able to exit on Westlake, or do we have any plans for that, or just JS?
So, Mayor, are you referring to just regular pedestrian or customer vehicles, or the delivery trucks?
Either one. In other
Okay.
words, after you pick up your car, will they come out on JS or enter on JS when they pick up the car, or do they have the option they can leave via the Westlake side? I was just wondering, is it just one entrance?
So there is an entrance on Westlake, so it's shared with the entrance to the Duggan's surface lot, and then there's also an entrance at the Junipero Serra side. So there is a specific way the delivery trucks will actually move in and out of the site. So they'll come in from Junipero Serra and then exit from Westlake Avenue. That's just to allow them to make the proper turning radiuses. But I think in terms of leaving the site, the customers will actually just be able to drive out of the building, and they can choose which exit they can take.
Thank you. And Mr. Duggan, oh, you're still there. Okay, there you go. I didn't forget about you, sir. On the JS side of the rendition of your building, I know we had discussed, access by the public, but that would require cutting into the sidewalk so they can temporarily park on JS. And I know that's completely different. Can you tell me the facade as to what's going to be on that first floor facing JS? I mean, is it a coffee shop or administration with folks out there?
Mr. Mayor, there'll be about 1,200 square feet of office space that fronts Junipero Serra. We don't know what that tenant will be, but 1,200 square feet is ideal for, you mentioned a coffee shop. 1,200 square feet is ideal for a Pete's, a Phil's Coffee, or a Starbucks.
Now you're talking, sir. I thought I didn't know if that was completely forgotten, but thank you for that reminder and validation. Okay, that's all the questions I have. And anyone else from my colleagues? Wow. Okay, what I would like to do at this time is open item number 13 to the public for, do we have any public comments on this item? Okay. At least I'll let Stephen unmute first before I move on.
I'm just refreshing the page, Mayor, and no, there are no public comments on this one either.
Thank you so much. So I'll close the public hearing at this time. I'll entertain a motion for the city attorney to read by title only. Does anyone want to make
Motion to city attorney read by title only.
Okay, we have a first by Councilmember Buenaventura, second by Councilmember Di Giovanni. Do we take a roll call vote on
No,
this?
for a motion, it could just be a voice vote for the first reading.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Got it. Okay.
I will read. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Daly City, amending the Daly City zoning map by amending ordinance number 1260 to Plan Development PD 54A and establishing plan development standards. Now entertain a council member to introduce the ordinance.
Motion to introduce the ordinance.
Okay.
I will second that.
No motion needed. An introduction is fine. The next action item is to adopt the resolution by roll call.
Okay. Not hearing any further questions. We went through that already. I'll call upon the city clerk to provide a roll call, please.
And we need a motion for a resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is for the use permit.
Okay. Can I make that motion?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we move ahead with the planned unit development as indicated PD-04-19-013998 and UPR 04-19-013999 and design review -04-19-014000. And may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. May I have a roll call, Madam City Clerk?
Ms. Di Giovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. I'd like to thank staff. I'd like to thank the applicant and Mr. Duggan and everyone who was on this call pertaining to this matter. I think the collaboration, especially with staff and Mr. Hira, thank you all for moving. And I can't forget Mr. High and Brandon. I think, yeah, he's still here too as well. So thank you all, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 14. And this is a notice of lien and special assessment to rental property. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. High. Mr. High?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, and Madam City Manager. Todd High, Director of Finance. This is the notice of lien and special assessment on rental properties pursuant to the business license tax in Daly City for unpaid business licenses based on gross receipts for commercial and residential rental property as of October 1st, 2019 the beginning of our business license year. 2 written notices have been provided. The first notice is in August 23rd, 2019. Then second notices went out to people who had not paid as of March 1st, 2020. On May 11th, 2020, the council set the time and place for this meeting on June 22nd, 2020. On May 18th, notices of intent to lien rental property were sent to the registered owners. Currently, we would be placing liens totaling approximately $134,000 on 210 properties in Daly City. As a comparison, in 2019, there were 278 properties and $202,000. So the amount of revenue to be collected is lower, as well as the number of properties, which is due to outreach and follow up on previous outstanding licenses. The cost is approximately $1.53 per parcel and 5% of the license cost. In most cases, it's about $7 to the city. In 2020, our business license revenue so far has been approximately $5.7 million. In 2019, it was $4.9 million. The increase is approximately $765,000 or 15.5% higher. And that's largely due to the 10% increase in the business license tax that started in 2020. Currently, we have 8,359 total business licenses active. 3,592 are property rentals, or 43% of the total. There's 175 property licenses that are outstanding at this time, which is approximately 4.9% of the total, slightly lower than 2019's 6.5%. We have a dedicated email address for people to send in questions. It's bl@dalycity.org. And we have a website under the Daly City Finance section with forms and instructions for people how to be compliant with the requirements of the business license. That's my prepared information, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. High. Do we have any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, just one. Mr. High, first, thank you. It's really these numerous pages, and thank you for your hard work, detailed. So these are people that are outstanding, and if we put the thing, when we do the lien, obviously we don't get it until the property has to be sold?
No, it's done. It's property tax. So we get part of it in December and the other part is in May.
Okay, so we're able to get from these people that on all this lists, then we'll get our money?
Yes, net of the small cost to the county for what services they provide.
Okay, but thank you. That was a lot of work, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council member. Very good question. Do we have any other further questions? Council member DiGiovanni, thank you for clearing that up. I thought we wouldn't get that money until they sold it, but it looks like
Me
it's
too.
lien.
I saw that word lien.
When they get the taxes, or they have to pay their taxes. Excellent. Excellent job, Mr. High.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay, any other further thoughts, concerns, or questions for Mr. High? Okay, at this time, I would like to open it up to see if there's any comments from the public on item number 14.
Mayor, we have one comment. It is from Askar Ginu, and it says, Thank you for having us here today. I'm here with my father, Asghar Jinu, owner of 631 Hickey Boulevard, Daly City. We were invited to attend this hearing today in regards to the business license my dad is required to pay for the house I currently live that is no longer a business or income property for him since 2016. The document he has showed me is stating that a lien will be put on the house since he has been delinquent. My ask today is to the city of Daly City, as if this property could please be reassessed, as it's no longer a business property and my father has been helping me immensely by letting my son and I live at his other property due to the high demand of Bay Area rent. My apologies that this has just came to my attention, as he has been dealing with some serious ailments since 2012 and hasn't been able to properly attend to these matters as he should have. Thank you. And it's from Sharina Jinu.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have the property license, the license number? Actually, if you can just send us the information, we'll research it.
Okay, will do. The address is 631 Hickey Boulevard, but I'll follow up with you, Todd.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we just need to contact them and be able to take care of this matter.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. And thank you, Stephen. I take it that's the end of the comments for this item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I am going to close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion for the notice of lien and special assessment to rental property.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like maybe this matter can be cleared up with Mr. High. And I'm very sympathetic to the situation these people are finding themselves in with having, it sounds like an illness, and I certainly, I guess what I'm wondering is, with Mr. High, how much longer do you think you'll need to be able to clear this up so we don't have to go through this?
Well, since we're just hearing about this tonight, we'll just have to have staff look at it tomorrow. I can see them on the list. It's just a question of if they've contacted us in any manner recently to notify us that they've had a change in circumstance.
So would you think maybe 30 days would do it, or?
Well, no, I would like to get it knocked off in the next few days. It just depends on if they've given us a phone number where we can reach them, or some contact information, or we can send them a letter tomorrow. I just have to check with staff to see if there's been any contact on this particular property.
Okay, that sounds good. So I guess what I'm asking as a technical procedural issue, Mr. Mayor, is, given that it sounds like they're going to work it out, do we just table this? Do we need to take a vote, or what? To continue it?
Well, we wait for people to make it. We've been in contact with these people since the final notices went out. So if people contact us and either pay what's outstanding, or if they say, oh, we sold the property and it doesn't belong to us anymore, we just have to do a little bit of research, and then we'll drop them off the list before we send this to the county. We send this to the county in July. This is just the kind of the notice of, these are the people that we have not been able to get any information from previously, and they are still, as far as we can tell, subject to the business license requirements.
Okay. What I'm hearing, and Councilmember Buenaventura, being very sympathetic, I do understand, Mr. Hyde, that you've sent out many notices, and he's not looking for a waiver, but instead a deferral.
Well,
before.
Actually, we would, if they're not renting the property anymore, we would basically cancel their existing license and say, yes, they're not subject to the requirements.
Excellent, excellent. That's what I'm, okay. Just wanted to be sure of that. And I have no doubt as to how much you've tried to reach out. And I just made some notes here in regards, so this is just business license, not the property tax.
Well, the business this is just a method for us to collect the business
Sure.
license amount that we believe is outstanding.
Gotcha, gotcha. And do we have, I think you gave a figure, was it $765,000, but out
Oh,
of,
that's the increase year over year on total business license.
yeah, okay, but based upon the lien that you want to file right now, do you have a total amount estimated as
Yes,
to?
it's approximately $134,000.
Okay, that's quite a bit. And do we have an average?
The average would be about $600.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Gotcha.
And the basic, the basic business license is about is on $110. If that's just the bare minimum.
Gotcha. Okay, Councilmember Buenaventura, was the answer somewhat feasible for you?
Not really. I mean, I'm wondering, what is it that we're gonna still have to vote on? Tell me exactly what it is that we're gonna vote on.
Can I maybe provide some procedural clarification? Mr. Hyde, when do you need to report the liens to the county?
We report those in late July.
So the end of July?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Hyde has a public hearing with a list of individuals, businesses that have business license tax. I would suggest, because I know that there's a process in play where he just seeks authorization to file a lien, but we don't necessarily file the lien until it needs to be reported to the county, which in my understanding comes till the end of July, but he wants to seek that authorization. So to the extent that there are changed circumstances or they no longer live on the property, my understanding is they would either try to make them current, or if there are changed circumstances, like in this situation, you do the due diligence and you don't no longer need to file the lien.
Right.
So I would suggest that you would be voting on the authorization for the finance director to file the special liens as it's attached to the staff report, but it's just to seek the authorization. There's a lot of due diligence done before you actually file this lien. And if you want to have some assurances, you can probably say not to file the lien until whatever date it is, Mr. Hyde, that you need to report to the county. So if it's July 30th, then you would seek that authorization. And to the extent that you've realized that there's changed circumstances, they're seeking a deferral, or they don't no longer in the building, then there would be no lien filed or reported to the county.
Correct. If they either become current or they've not, they are no longer renting the property commercially, then yes, we will adjust the amount, or we'll take them off the list so that they don't not.
Okay, I'm very satisfied with that answer.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally we've staff is working with people every day, either trying to collect the amount, or if the people say they're no longer renting the property, we just need to get a little verification. This is the first time that we've had a public comment regarding the process.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make the motion.
Okay. We have the public hearing open already, right, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, basically, Councilmember Buenaventura had asked a question, and I guess we were still on discussion before we opened it up to public hearing.
Okay.
So I see where you're coming from, City Attorney. We can't make the motion yet until we have the open public hearing. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hyde at this time before we open it up to public hearing? All right, hearing none, I'd like to open up the public hearing and defer to Mr. Stolte if we have any public comments on this one. Item number 14.
Mayor, I read the public comment on this one. It was from I'd have to.
Right. And that's what precipitated further discussion amongst council. Are there any others? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, there's no others.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to officially close the public comments on this at this particular time. And I'll entertain a motion which was started by Council Member Buenaventura to accept. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to move forward by roll call vote, please, on item number 14, Madam City Clerk.
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Okay, thank you so much. We'll move on to item number 15. I need to step away for a moment. Can I ask the Vice Mayor to take this meeting until I come back? Would that be possible? Can I do that, Madam City Attorney?
Yes, you may.
Okay, Vice Mayor Manalo,
Yes.
would you kindly move on with the agenda? I just need a few moments.
Oh, sure, Mayor. Sure.
Thank
No
you.
problem. You want me to continue?
Please.
Will do.
Wait, are we in mute? No.
Hello?
Unmute yourself. Okay. We could continue with item 15 if you like, Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes, sorry. I'm trying to pull up the
No
agenda.
worries.
Thank you very much. Now we are moving on to item number 15, communications, coastal development permit for deck, sunroom, and detached accessory structure at 431 Westmore Avenue. Use permit UPR-10-19-14238 and design review DR-10-19-14243. And we have staff on this, so Mr. Palland.
Good evening, Ms. Vice Mayor and council members. The next project before you is the Coastal Development Permit and Design Review for 431 Westmore Avenue. Let me see if I can start my screen share. Is that coming through?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So the project site is located on the southwest side of Westmore Avenue in the bend where Westmore transitions from north-south to east-west. The applicant is requesting to legalize the existing rear main level deck, to legalize the existing 190 square foot single story storage shed, and to create a sunroom upon the deck. This slide shows the existing and proposed rear elevations. And in this photo, you can see the existing deck with a partially enclosed sunroom, and the detached storage shed can also be seen. The existing corrugated metal roof will be replaced with a permanent roof structure with materials to match that of the existing home. The project is in compliance with the general plan, local coastal plan, and the R1 single family residential district standards. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA in accordance with CEQA guidelines 15301 for small construction. The Planning Commission did review this project earlier this month on June 2nd, and they recommend that the City Council take the following actions: adopt the findings as outlined herein, affirm the environmental assessment, and approve coastal development permit and design review UPR 1019-14-236 and design review 1019-14-243. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We also have the project architect and owner available if you have any questions for them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pelland. At this point, we'll ask any of my colleagues if they have any questions for staff or the property owner.
I guess I have a quick question for the applicant. What was the motivation behind this project?
Is this directed to staff or is it directed to the owner or the architect?
I'm just curious from the applicant, like what was the motivation behind this project?
Well, the motivation was that it was already built, and the enjoyment of the sunroom for the owners themselves is really the only place where they can sit out, enjoy the great weather, the sunsets, and also the harsh weather, and still have some protection since the Daly City is very foggy. This really provides some level of shelter and some level of comfort and some level of, Zen wisdom that they get just so that they can sit out and look at the beautiful ocean view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Vice Mayor?
Please, council member.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Thank you to the applicant. So are you the owner of
I
the
am.
of the
I'm
property?
not the owner, I'm the architect, but to my left is the owner, Paul McGanum.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Pam.
Oh, okay. Because I thought I saw you in part of the picture. Apologize. Totally apologize. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to clarify who was who and all that. But thank you very much. And I know that this will bring it up to code and everything else. So it'll be all like legalized and everything. So it'll be safe for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor.
You're welcome. So if there are any other comments, please let me know, or else at this point, I think I will entertain a motion to adopt a resolution. Is Mr. Mayor back?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I did catch the tail end, and I'm very familiar on this project as I watched the previous planning commission and everything that was provided. And I'll defer to the city attorney if I'm able to vote on this. I did read the staff report. Madam City Attorney.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I was talking to you. Yes, you may vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Vice Mayor, thank you so much for moving ahead with the meeting. I had to do something, but it's all clear now. So are there any further comments from council on this particular project? Thank you, Dr. Rod, for your question. You know, we all have different motivations, and I believe the architect gave a good answer. From what I gather, it's an enhancement to something, and yet is being built to code. And I think folks should have the ability to really enjoy their homes, and you know, we'll move ahead. That's my last comment. Okay, there was a motion on the floor. Was it the Vice Mayor who made the motion?
Oh, I entertained a motion at that time because I was interceding for you. But happy that you're back, and
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. So entertain the motion to accept the resolution. Anyone?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Okay, first by Councilmember Buenaventura. Anyone want a second? Before I do?
second.
Okay, okay, it's all coming through now. For the matter of record, I think it was Dr. Rod who moved forward with the second. So calling the question, first and second, any further discussion? Do we have any public comment on this before we move? Stephen?
No public comment on this one, Mayor.
Okay, okay, even though it doesn't look like it's called for
Yeah.
any. Okay, thank you very much. So may I have a roll call to adopt a resolution, please, Madam City Clerk?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Okay, that resolution is passed. I wish the applicant and Mr. McGonagall best wishes to you.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
good luck. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you,
Thank you all.
Vice Mayor. Thank you
you.
all. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good
Thank
night
you.
now.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next is public appearances. And I'm going to defer to Mr. Stephen Solti to see if we have any comments from the public. And if so, if we can limit any comments to 2 minutes.
Yes, we have one comment to read. It's from Jack Angelis, and it says, will the City Council follow up with the community after holding last week's study session regarding DCPD use of force? The press release did not address the community's comments about reallocating police funds to mental health and social services. Actually, the residents that commented about allocating funds were completely ignored and drowned out by a planned police statement, which was counterproductive and showed you threw something together without substantial thoughtfulness and consideration so that you can check a box that you did community engagement on this issue. Banning chokeholds is not enough. We need our city council to do better. And that's the end of the message. And that concludes public comment.
And who is that from?
Jack Angeles.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Do we have any other, you said that concludes it. No
Yeah.
other comments at this time?
Yeah, That is it. Yeah, correct.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay, moving ahead, next item is appointments to board, commissions, membership, committee appointments. Does any of my colleagues have any appointments that they would like to make or bring forward?
No, not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. I have none at this time. Pam, Dr.
None
Rod?
at this time. Thank you.
Okay, none for Dr. Rod. Ray? Okay.
No, none. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure you guys and gals are still awake. Thank you. All right, moving forward, we have reports. Council committee reports, item number 16. Council committee meetings, June 8th through the 21st. That's wow, that's 2 weeks. 8 plus 14, yeah, that's 2 weeks. Anyone?
Mr. Mayor?
Sure, Pam, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to report on a meeting that I had off of commute.org. Actually, commute.org is now have a seat with the executive director of commute.org has got now an MTC seat, which means with the transit, it's a bigger voice and better than ever. Through this COVID crisis, they're looking into the telecommutes and they're keeping the shuttles as they're still running. And they have been taking essential workers, but they're trying to study and see what's going to happen from here and how telecommuting is going to impact our transportation at all levels with BART and with our Caltran and all of the agencies combined. It's the first time we've actually been able to have a voice in this arena. And so it appears that I'm sitting on CCAG, that everybody's happy that commute.org is taking the seat and that John Ford is a perfect person for this. One of the big discussions that they had, and I don't know how it's going to apply in Daly City, but maybe if my colleagues or if my city manager, Stephen, may want to look into this. So there's been a big discussion in electric bikes. So it seems appears other cities, there's been such a big demand on just even regular bicycles, but more or less electric bicycles that they can't even keep them on the shelves. So they're actually looking into offering rebates, just as they do, so make them more affordable for people. So those that are interested, perhaps in our commuting from school or what have you, to try to figure out how to eliminate any vehicles that we put back in on the roads to maybe go to the university, or some people maybe live and work in Daly City, which would be great, and how we can make it safe for them now that we have our Vision Zero. So that was a big discussion. It'll be moving forward, and I look forward to seeing how maybe we can see if we can get any interest here. And I know they're not affordable, but they are coming up with some large rebates, because we did mention that up here we don't have the funds in our diverse community that really need it really bad. So they're looking to see how we can get funds. So thank you for your time, and look forward to the next report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Council Member DiGiovanni. I want to let you know that that was one of my favorite committees.
They're great, huh?
Oh, yeah. I am so happy that you were there representing our city. I think what's also very important is make sure that they don't take away our Bay Shore shuttles. Yeah. And
if anything, expand it.
And then the electric. Yes, and the issue on electric bicycles, I know we had discussions on that, especially including the last mile concept. And I think that's very important. And we as Daly City, we have to consider the storage of these bikes, because people usually get them and then just leave them. So let's keep working on that. I'm glad you're there to represent us. Great job. Thank you so much.
Further discussion ahead. And John Ford is fantastic.
Oh, yes. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other council committee reports? Dr. Rod, PCE?
I do. Yes, PCE. So I deferred my comments from last meeting to this meeting. I had a couple. So you have a change in the executive committee. Wayne Lee stepped down from the executive committee, and we have Julia Mates that took over that position, which I think it speaks volumes in terms of female and women leadership in the executive committee. I believe it's a majority female led, so that's a positive sign. You also talked about some of the rates of the use of energy, and when we started sheltering in place, there was a huge spike, and now it's kind of plateaued. I think it's because of the loosening of restrictions and people are now going out. We also had a conversation with our staff about reach codes and possibly going through the process of having reach codes and having the newer developments with electrification, but also considering the future developments that are related to like restaurants, because I believe that electrification and different culinary uses is a preference to use like gas stoves instead of electric stoves. So all those things are all in the process right now, and we're like in the conversational stages of that. And that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Rod. Another one of my favorite committees, but those meetings are long. It's good to know that you're picking up information, especially on the reach codes, because we were trying to adopt the reach codes and asking our developers to abide by them. So I'm glad you're there as well. And the oncoming and the continued acquisition of solar farms so that they can generate electricity. Along Council Member DiGiovanni, I'm more concerned also, they need to start extending those rebates to people who buy vehicles. And there's only a few companies that they reached out to, and I think they ought to reach across the whole gamut, but they're doing pretty well. And then the upcoming possibility of moving PG&E to move them from public to private conglomerate. I'm sure that that's being considered as well. So a great job. I'm glad you're down there as well. Thank you so much for your report. Okay, any other council committee meeting reports? All right, hearing none. I'll move
Oh, sorry,
on.
Mr. Mayor. I do. I attended the Association of Bay Area Governments as our delegate. And in that meeting, it was really around approving the upcoming budget in regards to fees for cities. There was a robust discussion on raising fees at a time when just during COVID-19. And so the budget was passed for purposes of moving forward with a caveat that if there are cities that are unable to pay their dues, that ABAG staff would be working with these individual cities in order to accommodate, since every case might be different. And so that was the update there, and really one of the main concerns. Also, there was a shift in bylaws, and also just a vote on the upcoming priorities for the group. So I wanted to update everyone on that committee meeting, and then also wanted to share with the group that I'll be joining a committee on equity for the long-term support towards COVID-19, really on the equity lens, and ensuring that, as moving forward, the county moves in a direction towards moving forward from COVID, or just being able to provide the adequate resources to our communities, to those served and underserved, or those not served. And so I'm happy to sit on that committee with the county.
Okay, Vice Mayor, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much for representing us on ABAG. And I have to commend you for taking that initiative to be on the committee for COVID COVID-19 relief and equity. All too often, I feel that Daly City is being left out, and I think you are the perfect example to make sure that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and to represent our community, and especially Daly City, to make sure that it's equal and fair across the board. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for taking that initiative to become a part of that committee. All right, are there any other further City Council reports? Oh, actually, that was Council Committee reports. All right, we'll move down to item number 17, City Council reports. I know a lot's been happening, so I'll let you guys have at it, gals. Councilmember Buenaventura.
No, thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Humble as Councilmember Buenaventura is always. I want to make mention of the successful community feed that we just had on Father's Day. I think we fed close to 2,000 meals. I'd like to thank staff and Daly City PD for being there. Basically, they were just there, and all the volunteers did all the work. And the chief at one point said to me, "Hey, you guys are just experts now." And I see the chief is on board. Thank you so much, Chief, and please relay that to your folks there. I'd like to thank the Philam Democratic Committee for hosting that in conjunction with the the Filipino Bayanihan Resource Center. It was definitely a showing of love, and we ran out of food, I think the last 15 minutes, but it was an event that was basically earmarked and brainstormed by Councilmember Buenaventura. So I'd like to thank you for that, and especially for your passion for the community and for food insecurity during these times that this has been very difficult. There's been other events throughout Daly City, and a lot of council members attend the different types of events. There's Seton, Jefferson, ceremony. It's just so much. And I'd like to say thank you all for continuing to do all the things that you do for our community. Okay, are there any other city council reports that I may have missed?
You missed the flag raising today.
I missed the what? Help me out.
The flag.
Oh, the flag raising. Oh, yes. The see, it's just so many. Another important event. I'd like to thank Dr. Rod. I always like to listen to Dr. Rod because he provides a unique outlook on history. And was there a saying, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it? And so thank you for that today. Today was a Philippine flag raising. I think this was our 5th annual flag raising, which was started by then Mayor David Canepa. We had distinguished guests there, and it was just a great, the feeling. I mean, not only the flag raising, but the acknowledgement of the diversity of Daly City and how we care about our entire community. And when we set the example for our community, it spreads, and other cities will look at us. So thank you everyone for being there. Thank you staff. Shauna, thank you for the last minute and getting to work on it right away. And Stephen, I had to compliment Stephen today because we had some Murphy's Law issues with the sound. And I know that feeling when you're under the gun and something's not working, but Stephen is always so calm, and you know, never let him see you sweat. So great job. And thank you everyone for being out there today. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, for your continuity in having the Filipino flag raised. And I just want to say thank you for your leadership on that.
It's a collaborative effort. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Okay.
Mayor,
any other?
two questions, please.
Ray, yeah, go ahead, Ray.
I thought I saw a blurb about Seton having a meeting. Do you know anything about that, when that's going to happen? I thought it had to do with the Attorney General. And then secondly, this goes to the city manager. What is our schedule like for the summer? And is there going to be meetings that we're not going to have? Because I just need to plan in terms of scheduling.
Mayor, would you like me to start?
Well, basically, Councilmember Buenaventura had two questions.
Right.
And I guess we'll start with Stephen first, and the city manager, if you could take that note down because your report is next. Okay, Stephen. What was your question to Stephen again, Ray?
Mayor, it's about Seton Hospital.
I have that information open.
Yeah.
If you want me to read when it will be. It is, let's see, the public meeting. I think this is what Councilmember Buenaventura is talking about. It's the California Attorney General is conducting a public meeting on Monday, July 6th at 10 a.m. by teleconference about the sale of Seton Medical Center. And there are instructions on how to join. There's a link that you can, that we have. We just received the notice of this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Councilmember Buenaventura. I didn't even know of that. So I'm glad you're in the know, and thank you, Stephen, for providing an update. Can you make sure and ensure that council receives that information in case they want to join and register? Because Seton is so important to us. Thank you so much. And thank you, Councilmember Buenaventura. Okay, any other, I haven't forgotten about you, Shauna. Any other questions before we move to the city manager's report, or yes?
I don't have any question, but I do have a city council report. I just wanted to acknowledge the Filipino Mental Health Initiative and also Skyline's Cipher and by Nihan response to COVID-19. And this was an event about 2 weeks ago in which they highlighted an opportunity for Daly City residents to express themselves through art and through lyricism. And it's called Showcase Solidarity, Humanity, Outreach, Work, Creativity, All in Shine, Empathy. But it was a community event that happened on Wednesday, June 10, of course, via Zoom at this time. But it's the first community open mic for Daly City, and it's going to be in a series monthly. But I just wanted to share that with the community, and that there's this space for creativity and outlet that they've provided. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, any other city council reports? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to turn the floor over to our city manager, Ms. Malpe, and for your report and any updates that you may have.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I don't have a lot to report, but I do want to let you know that I have a all hands on deck meeting tomorrow afternoon with the department heads to talk about the reopening of City Hall to the public. Cities are currently looking at reopening their city halls, and I very much want to get to that place as safely as possible. So we're looking right now at a date of July 6th to have City Hall open up for city services so that public can come in. That's a date that is flexible depending on the safety precautions that we could put in place, like, plexiglass and those kinds of things. So we're very eager to start business as usual as possible. So I wanted to relay that to the council and to the community. And then secondly, in regards to Councilmember Buenaventura's question about the summer meetings and whether or not we'll do a go dark on a meeting. And historically, it's the second meeting of August. In August that the council prefers to not have a meeting because of summer schedules and those kinds of things, but I am completely open to whatever the council decides as far as either going forward with full meetings this summer or taking a meeting off. We are at your disposal. So just let us know what you'd like to do for the summer.
Madam City Manager, when you say that you're expecting to open, well, hopefully by July 6th, does that include having regular council sessions in City Hall, or are we still going to be doing Zoom?
So under the current shelter in place, it would still be via Zoom. So assuming that the current SIP is still in place, we would be doing it like this. However, if the health officer of San Mateo County lifts restrictions, we are ready to go and eager, I think, to get back into the council chambers. So it's just sort of up to the state and then how the county interprets the state's direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else for our city manager? Thank you, Ms. Maltby. Aye, Captain. And before we close, I again like to thank staff and everyone here for everything you continue to do. Ms. Maltby, keep up the great work, and it's very much appreciated. Okay, what I would like to do is now move to adjourn this meeting. And as we do so, I'd like to call on Council Member D. Giovanni to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first person I'd like to close in memory of is he actually is San Mateo County Cal Fire Captain David William Lutz. Sadly, he had an accident while hiking and near Big Sur. He was only age 33 years old. He had a stepdaughter, 2 young children, and another child on the way. And has 8 siblings and has both of his parents living. So that's very sad, and he's very young. The second person I'd like to close the memory of is a longtime resident of Daly City of Caribbean descent and from your neck of the woods and from the New York area. So you'll hear me in the obituary that I'll be able to read. Her daughter sent me the obituary, so please, I know if the council will allow me time, it's getting late, but I do want to make sure, because the daughter is actually watching currently right now. So Mary Alexon Hobson Cord was born August 15, 1939. She passed away quietly at her home in Daly City on Friday, June 12, 2020, surrounded by family. Mary Alexon was a central force of loving and devoted family, as well as her many friends, a loving and beloved partner to her husband, Leonardo. Mary Alexon nurtured and raised 2 children, Ian Claude and Paula Claudine. Mary Alexon was born to her parents, Lawrence and Stephanie Hobson. She is survived by her husband, Leonardo, daughter, again, Paula Claudine and Leon. She was the eldest of 5 siblings. David Hobson, who's deceased, Cora deceased, and living is Christine, Raphael, and Hazel. He leaves behind several cousins and a large family. In 1973, very interestingly, she was a woman of that era. She entered the U.S. Army Reserves under the Civilian Acquired Skills program and served 3 years. And in this Army Reserves, she was at the rank of Specialist E5. Her personality and demeanor throughout her service was outstanding and honorable. Ms. Alexon also assisted her husband in the successful operation of International Youth Soccer Confederation and its dynamic championship, the Constellation teams. He was particularly proud of her substantial contributions to her design work and fabrication. She was a great artist and also had many musical talents. Mary Alexon graduated from St. Joseph's Convent. She studied her music at Trinity College, Cambridge University in London. Later moved to Great Neck, New York in 1964 to pursue fine art and fashion design at Pratt Institute, Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Mayor. He's familiar with this. She took every opportunity to express her passionate love for the arts as a practitioner, exhibitor, teacher, and mentor. One of her proudest moments in 2016, she collaborated with her daughter, Paula Claudine, who actually is a commissioner in the South San Francisco Arts Commission, and they did a beautiful beautification project in a utility box in South City. She subsequently received a congratulation, letter, getting late, from Congresswoman Jackie Spear and continued to volunteer with her as well. She also had some of her paintings exhibited at local art galleries nationally and beyond, libraries, festivals, and newspapers, restaurants, Northern and Southern California, and winning many awards for her artwork. Her accent was known as being bright and using bright, vibrant colors, and she envisioned the power of love, life, and energy. She often infused her work with tropical and Caribbean, Antillean motifs, given her background of that is her nationality, which were inspired by her early life experience. She was dedicated to giving back to her community through volunteer activities at our local Holy Angels Church, the Meridian Gallery in San Francisco, and the Honorable Congresswoman that she volunteered with in her office as well. Her caring, sensitive, compassionate side for others was truly remarkable. It is, we are at a loss for her vibrant personality, whom we all miss. May she rest in peace. As she always said, make love, not war. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing us to close in her memory.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. Did you have another one? I believe you had two. Did you?
I did. For the CAL FIRE captain, I already did. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
You're very much welcome. I'd like to also adjourn this meeting in honor of three people. First, I'll start off with Daniel Guevara San Jose. And the other person is Lydia Scarcella Fleming. And I've saved this last person, Mr. Willie Thomas Dotson. He's the dad of a very, very good friend of mine. Matter of fact, we were work colleagues. He was married 75 years. And the reason why I'm holding off is all too often we have a tendency to fight each other when we should be fighting this terrible, terrible disease of COVID-19. So he passed away as a result of COVID-19. So this disease takes on, it doesn't matter what race you are or what culture you are, we are all susceptible. So with that being said, I would like to close in honor of these three folks. And if we can kindly, well, that's all I have listed right now. Does anyone have something that we didn't get online? All right, hearing none, if we can take a moment to pause for a brief moment of silence, please. Okay, I thank you all so much. Councilmember DiGiovanni, City Manager Ms. Malpe, Stephen Salty, Ms. Leilani Ramos, and Rose Zimmerman. I see you're still at City Hall. Drive home safely, be safe, and thank you again for everything that you do. I don't know where the chief is, but anyway, I see that you folks are at City Hall, so please, please be safe. And until the next meeting, we'll see you then, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.